what if Naruto had the power of element of lightning? Zeus' son Naruto. Here is short summary. Minato has pissed off all the gods of Olympus to the point where Hera agrees to let Zeus sleep with Kushina, thus making Naruto a demigod with an extreme affinity for the element of lightning. The very same day Naruto is born, Minato, being an idiot, sends Kushina and Naruto to the one place they'd be treated like royalty, simply because Naruto is Zeus' son. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. In the village hidden in the leaves, Minato, the yellow flash, was grandstanding on the top of the Hokage mountain with his wife, Kushina, and the previous Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, were behind him looking exhausted. In the last year since Hiruzen had named the blonde his successor as the fourth Hokage, Minato has grown arrogant, egotistical, and cocky, almost dangerously so. Both he and Kushina were worried about what the gods would do if they ever felt insulted by the blonde idiot. You know Hiruzen, nowadays, I don't recognize him as the man that rescued me and that I fell in love with, she said with a sigh. I know, he's not the same man that I named my successor. I don't know who is worse, Orochimaru or him, arrogance and cocky, or mad scientist. Hiruzen nodded. Meanwhile, completely self-absorbed in himself, Minato either didn't notice or care about what the mere mortals behind him were doing. He ruled this village with an iron fist and had every woman at his beck and call. He didn't care about his marriage. In all honesty, he did love her once, but now, she was nothing but a trophy for him to show off, especially since she was likely the last of her clan, and he expected her to remain loyal to him, even if he slept with anyone he pleased. The council even gave themselves or their daughters who were old enough in hopes of integrating his genes into their families. I am not your Hokage. Such a meager title doesn't fit someone of power and skill. I am a god. One far greater than those weak fools up on Olympus. Stronger than Zeus, wiser than Athena, faster than Hermes, wage war better than Ares, a better hunter better than Artemis. They have nothing on me, he shouted out to the village, smirking at the rumble of thunder that sounded overhead. He's going to get the village destroyed. Kushina groaned while Hiruzen nodded in agreement. Olympus, chamber of the gods. Up on Olympus, the pantheon of the gods were in assembly, even Hades, who was usually not invited and stuck in the underworld, and all of them were beyond pissed. Brother, this is an outrage. This mortal has gotten too full of himself and has been for the last year. We need to do something. Poseidon said, slamming his trident down into the marble floor. He was a tall man with a swimmer's build with sea green hair and sea blue eyes, wearing green and gold armor, and he is the god of the sea, storms, earthquakes, and horses, often known as the Earthshaker. Agreed. He claims to be better than us when we could and should squash him like a bug. Ares raged. He is the god of war and courage and one of two of Zeus and Hera's sons. He was a huge bulky man clad in standard gladiator armor, with a massive gladius on his hip and a massive shield on his back along with an equally massive bow, with a quiver along his back. He had fiery red hair and sharp battle-hardened brown eyes. That Cretan is even having his subordinates to give their daughters or even themselves to him against their will. We should kill him and rescue those girls. I'd gladly welcome them into the hunt. Artemis shouted. She was a beautiful young woman with short mint green hair and green eyes, wearing a leather battle dress, which was covered in leaves for camouflage, and a massive bow and quiver on her back. She is the goddess of the hunt, wilderness, wild animals, the moon, and chastity. She often took girls in her group of female hunters who have been wronged by men and has an extreme hatred towards men. Hey whoa. I think we all agree we should punish this mortal. The question is, how do we do it? As shocking as it may sound coming from me, straight out killing him is too good for him, even if I'd enjoy tormenting his soul. He should suffer for his transgression. Hades said. This was the god of the underworld, the dead and riches. He had blue flames for hair and wore a black toga, however when was pissed off his flames turned red. That is rare for you to say, Hades. However, I do agree, this Cretan should suffer. And I am going to add to the rarity, Hera said, getting looks of intrigue from everyone. She was the queen of the gods, Zeus' wife and sister, goddess of marriage, women, childbirth, and family. She had wavy golden brown hair with sky blue hair and a beautiful figure, wearing a purple silk gown. Now, all of you know how I feel about unfaithfulness, especially when it comes to married couples. She paused, getting nods and curious gazes from everyone, especially her husband. She sighed and took a deep breath before continuing. I propose that we go with my husband's means of teaching mortal men a lesson. This one time, I will allow him to sleep with and impregnate Minato Namikaze's wife, Kushina Uzumaki. This would humiliate him as a cuckold, and the child would undoubtedly be the constant source of a reminder to him and those who worship the man. Not to mention when it gets out to the rest of the world that he angered us to this point that even I allowed it to happen, that he'd lose all creditably, even if should he banish the child. Are you sure about this, my dear? You normally hate it when I punish mortals this way? Zeus asked cautiously. He was the king of the gods, god of the sky, lightning, thunder, law, order, and justice. He was a massively muscled man, with short curly hair, electric blue eyes, wearing a white toga with gold trimmings. Like any mentally healthy man, he had a healthy respect and fear for his wife. Even if he had a habit of sleeping around, he always ended up paying for it. You are right. Normally if you did this you'd be spending time cleaning up after Cerberus, but this mortal has pissed me off, especially since I am patron god of the land of fire. Besides, this will not be the only punishment this fool will be receiving from me. Just know this will be the one and only time I approve of this, Zeus. Do it again and I will remove what makes you man. She said in an authoritative tone that made even male god in the room shiver and grab their junk, earning a squeaky, "Yes dear," from her husband. What of the wife? This Kushina Uzumaki. She's fairly pious, but has given up on trying to correct or stop her husband. Athena asked. She was the goddess of wisdom, olives, weaving, and battle strategy. She was a brunette with brown eyes, wearing a bronze chestplate with a leather battle skirt. She had a book in her lap and her snow owl on her shoulder. I feel she will have suffered enough, with this past year, not to mention having to bear a child to someone who isn't her husband, and likely the torment that fool will likely inflict on her for it. If we go through this, she will require protection. Hera said seriously. Yes, I agree, your majesty. Shall I send word to a demigod or hero to stand guard over her? Hermes asked as he flitted around the room with winged sandals holding the caduceus, a staff with two intertwined snakes, crowned a pair of wings and a sphere. He was the messenger of the gods, and conductor of souls. He was dressed in a leather vest and pants, complete with a traveler's hood. All four siblings look at each other as having a silent conversation before nodding. No, they are people of stealth and deception. We need not a hero, but an assassin that can blend in. Perhaps even one who does not agree with what this offending mortal has been doing. Any suggestions? Poseidon asked. Hades, would you be all right with that? Hera asked curiously, crossing her arms under her bust. Oy vey, Hades exclaimed, throwing his arms up in surrender. Even this is going against the natural order, but yes, it is possible as long as she doesn't expect them to remain alive. The most they will have is 10 minutes and she has to swear that she won't reveal this being done or the whole cosmos will expect the same treatment. Everyone nodded in agreement. Now then, is there anything else that needs ironing out before we enact this plan? Zeus looked to his siblings and children. Yes, the timing for your visit. I believe you should wait until we convince Tsunade to return to Konoha if part of our objective is to protect Kushina. So our first objective should be just that. Finding and convincing her to work for us. Athena said, clearly a bit disturbed about what they were planning, even if Minato deserved it. As for when after that, stick to your usual method, go while the offender is busy or in the case of this one, while he's sleeping around in his office. Aphrodite said flippantly, looking at her nails before looking up. Just keep in mind, Kushina is a lot more perceptive than your other targets. Don't be surprised if she catches on. Not just that you're not Minato, but why you're there. You may have explained everything to pacify her. Surprises never cease, Athena said, speaking everyone's shock before schooling herself. That aside, I think we are overlooking an important detail regarding the mortal woman. She is a Jinchuriki, therefore, we will be putting her life in danger. Female Jinchuriki's seals are at their weakest at childbirth, and therefore, the fox inside her will try to escape. What are we going to do about that? Well, I don't have any knowledge on Fuinjutsu. A giant fox should be within my domain. I should be able to keep the furball in check. Artemis said before looking at Athena. If anyone would know about Fuinjutsu, it'd be you. You're the goddess of wisdom after all. Athena sighed but nodded. I will have to freshen up on the subject, but yes, I should be able to help there, seeing as how the mortal we are targeting will not likely try to prevent the escape of the fox. If anything, he'd want to reseal the beast into someone else to have a more submissive and loyal weapon rather than the current headstrong one. Then it's settled. Hermes, you have your assignment, Zeus said in a firm tone before looking towards his brother, Hades, who nodded and gave the messenger of the gods 2 orbs. Those will allow Tsunade to summon her loved one for the specified time. Yes, sir. I'll find her and inform her of our offer and the job, the hooded messenger said, taking off without another word. The rest of you are dismissed, the thunder god declared as he watched everyone but his wife and son Apollo leave the room. What is it, Apollo? What have you seen? Father, my queen, this child, my future brother, will be extremely powerful and will play a major factor in deciding the world's fate depending on how he is raised and treated. He will either join the forces of darkness and destroy everything, including we gods, or he will bring about a peace that will last several lifetimes before he joins us. The god of oracles, healing, archery, music and arts, sunlight, knowledge, herds and flocks, and protection of the young. He was the twin brother of Artemis, however. He looked a lot like Zeus, only he had more of a lean build, complete with blonde hair and blue eyes. I see. Thank you, son, you may go, Zeus said, earning a bow from Apollo as he returned to his sun chariot as Hera looked at her husband with a stern look. I meant what I said. If I find out you sleep with anyone else other than Kushina enough to give her a child, I will not only castrate you but make the offspring suffer to the point of suicide, she said, deadly serious. I am aware, dear. I promise you that unless you give me permission to do so, I shall forevermore be loyal to you, my queen. I swear it to you on the river Styx, he declared in rumble of thunder, sealing his oath. Swearing on the river Styx is the most binding and unbreakable oath that will kill even a god for breaking said oath. You didn't have to go that far, but I'm glad you did. You proved your sincerity, Hera said with a soft voice and a bright smile. Land of Fire, capital city. Keisha. In the entertainment district of the capital of the Land of Fire there is a busty blonde, blue-eyed woman who appears to be in her early 30s but is actually almost double that, and beside her dragging a suitcase was a 15-year-old girl with brown hair and brown eyes desperately trying to keep up. Lady Tsunade. Please slow down. It's not like the gambling hall is going anywhere, the teenager cried out, her arms getting tired. We're not going to a gambling hall, Shizune, we're getting out of town. I feel something very wrong going to happen soon, the now identified Tsunade said as she keeping her brisk pace. But we haven't won anything big lately. Isn't that your telltale sign? Shizune inquired curiously. Normally you'd be right, however, my gut is telling me that we need to keep moving, the slug Sanin said seriously. As if proving her point, a hooded figure landed in front of them, causing both medics to get into a defensive position, especially when the figure talks. Lady Tsunade Senju and Shizune Kato, I presume? Who wants to know? Tsunade said, getting ready to unleash her monstrous strength on the stranger. The figure looks around, seeing people gathering and wondering what was going on. He returned his gaze to the medics. How about we take this somewhere private? We are gaining quite a bit of attention and what I have to say is highly confidential and will be of great importance to both of you. Having noticing he was right about the crowd gathering, both women nodded, intrigued at what this stranger had to say. They decided to go with him while keeping their guard up and ready to turn him into paste if they don't like what he has to say. All right, but you will tell us who you are, and if we don't like what you have to say, well, it wouldn't end well for you, the blonde said sternly. Very well, however, I believe that will not come to pass, he said. A smirk was visible to Shizune, being shorter than the other two, causing her to worry, especially since this hooded stranger was incredibly powerful. At a random inn, Tsunade, Shizune, and the hooded figure rented a room for the day to talk in private. Once the door was locked, Hermes revealed himself, causing both women to gasp in shock. Tsunade was the first to regain her composure. So, what does the messenger of the gods want with the two of us, or rather what do the Olympian gods want with us? I will explain everything in detail, Hermes said before he started his explanation. Once he was finished, Tsunade looked like she was going level a city block and Shizune looks disgusted. So, will you help us by helping Kushina? Let me get this straight. Lady Hera has given her approval for Lord Zeus to sleep with Lady Kushina to start punishing and humiliating Minato, and you would like Lady Tsunade to protect her since even they are family, no matter how distantly related they are. Did I get all that right? Yes, in exchange for being able to get 10 minutes with your uncle and her little brother for a chance for closure, Hermes said with a nod. Why? Tsunade said in a low, sorrowful voice before she snaps at the messenger god. Why can't you just bring back permanently? Lady Tsunade, Shizune said as she moved to hug and comfort her mentor and mother figure. I am truly sorry. We cannot do that. Doing so would disturb the natural order. Even allowing this could have major repercussions on the cosmos. Hermes said seriously, even if he had a sympathetic tone underlined. Lady Tsunade, I believe we should accept this job and offer. Even if it's only 10 minutes, that's more than anyone else will ever get. Shizune said cautiously, not wanting to be on the receiving end of her mentor's fist. After thinking it over, the busty blonde nodded with a sigh. Very well, I'll accept the job. However, I will only remain in that village until Kushina gives birth safely, then I'm done. Very well. The messenger god said before taking out the 2 orbs. Take these and focus on the 2 you wish to see. I suggest allowing Shizune to summon her uncle while you summon your brother. They should have been made aware of the time limit, so make good use of it. Both nodded, took hold of the orbs before looking at Hermes. How does this work? Do we focus on them or do we just drop these? Tsunade asked. You do both. Focus on your loved ones then drop the orbs, he answered simply. Doing as told, they focused on their chosen loved ones and dropped the orbs. On contact with the ground, the orbs shattered and white mist filled the room and 2 figures started to take shape, one that of a 12-year-old boy with short brown hair, hazel eyes, and distinct blushes on his cheeks, wearing a dark teal poncho top and light green pants. The other was a 27-year-old man, with pale blue hair that reached the middle of his back, dark green eyes, wearing the standard Konoha shinobi with a pocketless flax jacket. Dan, Nawaki, Tsunade said softly, tears pooling in her eyes, with Shizune holding back her tears seeing her uncle for the first time since she was a little girl. It's good to see you, sis, and you must be Shizune. It's nice to meet you, Nawaki said with a megawatt smile. Tsunade, you're looking as beautiful as ever, Dan said with a tender smile before looking at his niece. Hey Squirt, I see you're doing well. Tsunade's not been too hard on you, has she? No, she's been really good to me. The raven-haired girl chalked out, trying not to cry knowing they don't have much time. The blue-haired man smiled and nodded. Well, I know we don't have much time, so I want to say that please don't waste your life grieving for us. I want you to move on, go back to healing people, open a clinic or something. Try to cut back on drinking and gambling. Maybe this deal they offered you to take care of your distant cousin. I agree, sis. Watching you drink your life away and gambling away our family's fortune hurts. You were so much happier when you were healing people. Please, promise me you'll take care of yourself, if not for us or yourself. Do it for Shizune here. She's all you got, just as she's all you have left, Nawaki said in a sad tone. As for you, Shizune, I need you to take care of Tsunade and not be afraid to stand up to her, Dan said with a smirk. Do you know how hard losing you two was? I can't stand the slight blood anymore, Tsunade said weakly, hugging herself and looking very vulnerable. Tsunade, I know our deaths hit you hard. We've watched as you suffered. But it's been years, hun. We're asking you to let go, to move on, and find something to make you happy again. We're not asking you to forget us, but also not to let our memory weigh you down anymore. The dead Jonin pleaded. He's right, sis. Do what you need to be truly happy and not this self-destructive lifestyle you've been living. In fact, I'm glad you haven't completely lost yourself and started sleeping around like that pervert of a teammate of yours, Nawaki remarked. After a few precious minutes, Shizune piped up. Lady Tsunade, I think they're right. Who knows, maybe caring for Lady Kushina will do us some good and open new avenues for us. Tsunade sighed heavily and nodded. I'll do what I can, but it's not going to be easy, especially my hemophobia, but I will do my best to move on. She paused, taking a deep, shaky breath, with tears rolling down her cheeks before continuing. I love you both, and will never forget you. As if saying that was a trigger, both started appearing to be see-through. Looking at their hands, they had a sad smile. Dan was the one that voiced their thoughts. Looks like we're out of time. Remember what we said. Work towards moving on and have a better life than you're living right now. I'll always love you both, but that doesn't mean that I don't want you to live alone while you're alive, and not just with Shizune. Nawaki nodded. At least consider it, sis. Even if you can't have children anymore, I'd like for you to find somewhere to settle down and find someone to share the rest of your life with while you live as a healer. We both would. Tsunade simply nodded while Shizune hugged her, both crying as they watched their loved ones fade away. Hermes, having watched all of this, wiped a tear of his own at the scene. It was 5 minutes later that the medic duo collected themselves and looked at the god in the room with determination. When do we start? While I'm not sure if we'll settle in Konoha, we have our loved ones' last words to honor, Tsunade said firmly. Head there now. I will return to Olympus and confirm your acceptance of the mission. Lord Zeus will act when you arrived, Hermes replied, receiving a nod from them. Konoha. 5 days later, the medic duo was approaching their mission destination, much to the surprise of the Eternal Gate Chunins. Lady Tsunade. What a pleasant surprise. Welcome back to the Leaf. Can I offer you an escort to the Hokage Tower? One of them asked. The blonde just sighed. No, my assistant and I will be just fine. It's a straight shot after all. Let's go, Shizune. And left with her daughter figure following behind after bowing to the 2 gate guards. Lady Tsunade. Why are we going to the tower when we should be looking for Lady Kushina? Shizune asked curiously. Because Shizune, all visitors, shinobi or not, must report to the Hokage, and since I am both a shinobi of this cursed village and a visitor, we have to follow protocol. Tsunade replied exhaustively. Filthy pig. I can see part of the reason why the gods want to punish him, and something tells me that Lord Zeus sleeping and impregnating Kushina is only part of it. Tsunade thought, knowing that Shizune shared her thoughts. Suppressing a growl, Tsunade kept her features schooled. I am here to spend time with the possible last member of my family, your wife, Kushina. That and work at the hospital during my stay, she said, empathizing the fact he had a wife. Shrugging it off, showing that he didn't care what the older woman thought, Minato simply continued eyeing the two of them, continuing the conversation. I'm sure she'll be very happy to see you, and the hospital will love having you back. Where will you be staying? I figure we'll stay at your place with Kushina since you seem to be so busy here with your work, she said snidely. Very well. We have more than enough room to put the two of you, he said, barely containing his excitement before calling for his most loyal Anbu. Dog. Yes, Lord Hokage? An Anbu with gravity-defying silver hair appeared in a kneeling position. Show these lovely ladies to my house and let Kushina know they'll be staying with us, the blonde Hokage said, earning a nod from the Anbu. If you'd follow me, Lady Tsunade, Shizune, Dog said politely. However, before they left, Minato had one last thing to say. Oh, and Tsunade, can you let her know that I won't be home again tonight? Are you ever home to spend time with your wife? Shizune asked heatedly. Minato merely shrugged and waved them off, getting back to the paperwork that was miraculously untouched by the earlier rutting. The medic growled lowly, causing the Anbu in the room to tense and prepare to defend Minato if the women attacked. However, they stood down when Tsunade, Shizune left the room with Dog quickly following behind to fulfill his orders. After 10 minutes of storming through the village, they arrive at their destination thanks to the wary guide. Dog bowed before using the body flicker jutsu to get out of dodge. Taking time to take a deep breath to calm themselves down, Shizune knocks on the door. After a minute of waiting, the door opened to reveal a beautiful redhead with violet eyes, wearing a white high-collared sleeveless blouse under a loose-fitting green dress. Hello, what can I? She started to ask before she recognized who was at the door. She shouted and tackled them into a hug. Tsunade, Shizune. Good to see you too, Kushina. I see you haven't let the stress of having a lousy husband get you down. Tsunade groaned from the force of the tackle. Lady Kushina, can you let us up? I can't breathe, Shizune wheezed. Oops. The redhead got up and rubbed the back of her head in embarrassment. Please come in. Inside the house, they sat on a plush couch with fresh tea and other treats. So what brings you back home after all these years? I thought you said you'd never come back here for anything, Kushina asked. I came by to work at the hospital and spend time with you, possibly the last family I have left. The older woman said solemnly, hiding the fact she was here to act as a bodyguard for a job from the gods. That's very sweet. The redhead gushed. And where are you staying? Lord Hokage is letting us stay here with you, Shizune saying Lord Hokage sarcastically. That's great. I'll prepare supper for the three of us, Kushina said with a smile. Wait, so you're not accepting your husband to come home? Tsunade asked curiously. He's only here once or twice a week to get a change of clothes, shower, or grab something from his office. I know full well he has a special meeting room for his all-nighters, the Jinchuriki said with a shrug. And yeah, I know about him sleeping with just about every woman in the village. The few that haven't are Hitomi, Sume, Makoto, as well as my students Yugo and Kurenai. So, the matriarchs of Hyuga, Inuzuka, and Uchiha aren't giving in to the fool, nor are your students, but what about the daughters of the clans? Shizune asked. Kushina sighed deeply. Hana has been sleeping with him more regularity than most. The only one so seems to there more than anyone is Mebuki Haruno. That slut has been there almost every night. That's probably who he's seeing tonight. Actually surprised that she hasn't gotten pregnant yet. Tsunade and Shizune had to chuckle at the pregnant comment, knowing what was to come, and soon, perhaps sooner than either of the three of them knew. However, Shizune realized that one of her classmates was giving herself willingly to Minato and knew she was too loyal to her loved ones to change her mind. Hana. Anyway, enough about that idiot and his sluts. Let's get your rooms sorted out, then get started on supper. The redhead said, putting on a fake smile that the two medics saw through immediately. She acts like Minato's infidelity doesn't bother her, but it hurts her very deeply. I hope this plan doesn't hurt her more. Tsunade thought. Screw it, I can't lie or hide anything from family. Lady Hera, Lord Zeus, I hope you can forgive me. As if giving the okay, a small rumble of thunder sounded along with a vision of a peacock nodding its head at her. Taking a deep breath before looking at her daughter in all but blood, who nodded in acknowledgement, and looked back at Kushina before saying in a serious tone. Wait, there is something I need to tell you. Something that involves you. What is it? Does it have to that freak rumble of thunder? Kushina said warily, not likely looking the series looks in their eyes. Minato has angered all of the gods. They have come up with a way to punish him, or at least start to punish him if I am to guess. Tsunade started only to take a deep breath, not knowing how the redhead would react to the news. There's no easy way to say this, but they have decided to make an example out of the idiot by having Lord Zeus come and impregnate you, with Lady Hera's full consent, along with all appropriate measures to ensure your safety. Shizune and I were tasked with being your protectors in case your husband sends someone to try and harm you or your child. Now, let it be known that Kushina is known for having one hell of a temper, so the response the medics got from the red-hot habanero surprised them. A heavy sigh with a resigned look on her face. Yeah, Hiruzen, and I feared that he was going to piss them off. Can't say that I'm surprised that Lady Hera is agreeing to let Lord Zeus do this. Minato has destroyed multiple relationships and marriages with what he's done. Wait, you're not mad about being used as a tool for punishment? Shizune gasped. Well, I am irritated at the idea of being used like this. Denying the gods' wishes would bring more harm than good. I will abide by their wishes as a believer and follower of the gods. The redhead said before smirking mischievously. Besides, Minato brought this on himself. So, when is Lord Zeus going to be here to enact the plan? We don't know for sure, but I'd say it'll be soon, more likely than not, tonight. Then again, I can't say for sure, Tsunade said. Kushina nodded. Well, in the meantime, let's get back what we were about to do before you told me this. And thank you for doing so. However, before Kushina got into her bed, she looked out her window and said a silent prayer with tears flowing down her cheeks. Please, gods of Olympus, let this plan go smoothly, and once this is over, please help me get out of this marriage. I can't take this anymore. He isn't the man that I fell in love with. I doubt he ever truly loved me. All I want is a loving family, a man that will be faithful to me and will love my future child as his own. As if to answer her prayer, the skies lit up in a flash of lightning, being a blinding light into the bedroom, and as it faded, there stood Zeus looking at her sympathetically, causing her to kneel and bow her head out of respect. None of that now, my dear, he said, motioning for her to sit on her bed, and she did so without wasting any time. There, that's better. Now, before we begin, I will say that we'll do what we can to help you with your request. Thank you, she said before undressing and presenting herself to the god. I'm ready. Set up a silencing barrier. We don't need my agents to hear, do we? Zeus said with a smirk, earning a blush and immediate response with the room lit up with seals showing that the room was isolated. Needless to say, Kushina had the night of her life, never having felt so much pleasure in her life, and with Hera's blessing in place, the child was guaranteed to be conceived. 3 months later, Kushina was starting to show, and thanks to Minato hardly ever being home, he didn't notice, especially since she started wearing baggy clothing when she left the house, and when Minato was at home he never paid any attention to her. It wasn't until she woke up one morning that he stayed overnight that her nightgown robe up over her baby bump that he noticed. You damn slut, you actually slept with someone else. Minato roared, causing Kushina to wake up and Tsunade to rush in. What do you expect? You leave me high and dry for over a year while you sleep with those whores day in and day out, yet you expect me to remain faithful to you? Kushina said, adjusting her gown. Yes. That is what I expected, but I guess that was too much to ask. He said quietly before looking stern and spoke with authority. Who was it that gave you this bastard child? Why should I tell you? It's not like you can do anything about it. The red-hot habanero said with her hair starting flail around, liking as it was the nine-tailed fox's tails. And don't even think about trying to take my baby from me. I may be pregnant, but I am still the best Jonin in the village and the one who taught you Fuinjutsu. You don't think I removed your flying thunder god marker from me by now? And don't think about attacking her or having one of your pawns do it for you. I will protect her with all of my strength. Tsunade said, punching her palm, causing Minato to sweat a little. Damn it, if this gets out, I'll be done for. I can't even get rid of this whore with Tsunade here, she's too strong. She could destroy the village with a few well-placed punches. Not to mention that Kushina can and likely will put up a barrier around the house to keep unwanted people out, and if she really did remove my marker, then I can't keep her in the village by force anymore. He thought, swearing up a storm on the inside before realizing something. Fuck. That night 3 months ago. That lightning storm. So, high and mighty Zeus did this to teach me a lesson, and if I'm correct, he sent you to guard my whore of a wife. Minato said, glaring at Tsunade, who didn't even look surprised or acknowledge that he was right. Get off my house, Minato. It was left to me by Lady Mito when she asked me to carry the fox. Kushina growled. Like hell. He said, charging up his Rasengan in a blind rage, forgetting about his fear before getting punched out of the house by the slug Sanin. I told him I'd defend you as long as I lived, she said, dusting off her hands. Shizune rushed in after hearing Minato being launched from the house. Lady Tsunade. Lady Kushina. Is everything alright? What was that? Things just got harder for us, Shizune. Minato has discovered the plan. The blonde woman sighed heavily before looking at Kushina. How quickly can you set up a blood barrier for the three of us? Assuming we aren't constantly bothered by every shinobi in the village, I can get it done in a few hours. The redhead said as the house's regenerative seals were working to fix the human-sized hole in the wall. Tsunade nodded. Alright, get dressed and get to work. I'll go stand watch out front. Shizune, you're on watch out back. Move it. On the other side of the village, Minato peeled himself out of the boundary walls with his personal Anbu appearing before him. Lord Hokage, are you alright? Just get me to the hospital, and summon the rest of the Anbu. We must act quickly. The yellow flash seethed. Yes, sir. Dog said, creating a shadow clone to carry out his orders. Konoha Hospital 3 hours later. All Anbu had been assembled and waiting to hear why they were summoned, and when the doctor gave the all clear, they piled into the large room. Lord Hokage, who did this to you? One Anbu asked frantically. Tsunade has turned her back on the village along with my wife. You are to kill the two of them as well as Shizune and anyone else that sides with them. Minato said in a pained voice. Take them out on sight, but keep it a strictly Anbu up. While most Anbu acknowledged the order without hesitation, one in the back of the room thought something was off about this order. I need to get to the bottom of this. Lord Hokage is never this drastic and Kushina would never betray us, she thought. This was a very curvy and busty woman with dark skin, long purple hair, wearing a cat Anbu mask, and standard Anbu uniform. She was probably the only female Anbu that hasn't given herself to the lecherous and insatiable Hokage of respect for the redhead. She saw her as a sister after saving her from rapists and getting her home. Dismissed. The Hokage said as he laid in bed. The only Anbu to stay at his side was Dog. Sensei, are you sure about this? If we kill her, we risk unleashing the fox upon the village, and without another Uzumaki, we can't seal it again. The silver-haired Anbu asked politely. I don't have a choice, Kakashi. I will not be seen as a weak cage that lets traitors go unpunished, the blonde said tensely. If I may, what has she done? Kakashi Hatake asked curiously. Minato sighed and scanned the room before addressing his last remaining student. This stays between us, getting a nod from his most loyal Anbu. Kushina is pregnant with another man's child, and unfortunately it's no one I can target. Who is it, sensei? The copycat ninja asked. Zeus. Seems the idiot thinks he can punish me by having my wife give birth to a bastard son. And while it's unclear as to whether or not the other gods are in on this or not, if I can snip this in the butt before the child is born, then their plan will backfire, and no one will know of Kushina's pregnancy. Minato explains. And Lady Tsunade and Shizune? What have they done? Dog asked, trying to hide his concern for Shizune. The apprentice medic was someone he had a small crush on when they were kids before she left with the last Senju. They arrived the day of the freak thunderstorm 3 months ago, the same night I suspect that Zeus paid my wife a visit. I suspect those Olympian fools sent her to watch over Kushina as protection. Minato said before seeing the look of disbelief on his student's face. Look, I know you hold a flame for Shizune, but her loyalty is to Tsunade first and foremost, and that old hag has no love for Konoha. I understand. Kakashi said in a solemn tone, knowing that his sensei was right before kneeling. In any case, I wish to remain at your side for your protection. Very well. The yellow flash sighed while cursing to himself. Kushina's probably got a barrier up by now, and knowing her craftiness, she'll make it so it can only be altered from the inside, meaning that the Anbu can't get them unless they leave for supplies. Damn it. Meanwhile at the Uzumaki residence, at the same time, the Anbu were given their orders and were on their way. Kushina just finished the barrier only for the 3 of them to be on edge as they felt several Anbu heading their way. Kushina, activate it now, Tsunade shouted. But before she could, the second fastest being in the village appeared in front of them. Listen to her, Kushina. Minato has ordered all 3 of your deaths for turning against the village. Nodding, the redhead activates the blood seal before saying, let's go inside before the rest of the Anbu get here. We don't want to get her exposed for disobeying a direct order. Once inside, the Anbu took off her mask to reveal her piercing yellow eyes, which took in her sister in all but blood's appearance. I see, so that's why Minato is so upset. Who is the father? Straight to the point as usual, Yoruichi. Kushina sighed. It's Lord Zeus, with Lady Hera's blessing. I see, so that fool really pissed off the gods, huh? The no-named Yoruichi said with a smirk. Serves that lecherous pig right. Well, you have my support as always, Kushi. The pregnant woman smiled and gave her friend a smile. Thank you, Yoruichi, you've been a great friend. Just be careful, you're already on Minato's shit list for not giving yourself to him. The dark-skinned beauty simply scoffed. If it wasn't for your help, I'd be the fastest individual in this village. I'll be fine, especially since he hasn't figured out the irony of giving the cat mask. Kushina. Who is this? Tsunade asked, clearly confused and not recognizing the woman in front of her and Shizune. Wait. That cocky attitude, those yellow eyes, you were always with Lady Kushina before we left the village. It's been quite some time, Lady Yoruichi. Shizune said with a big smile. Now I remember, Kushina brought you to me the night before we left after an attempted rape. Don't know how I could have forgotten that since you're probably the only dark-skinned person in the village. Tsunade said, smacking her forehead. That's right. I joined Anbu shortly after that at the request of Lord Third for my protection. Though my loyalty will always be to Kushina for saving me that day. The purple-haired Anbu said with clear devotion in her voice. Tsunade nodded. That sounds like Sensei, going out his way to make sure that someone unique is taken care of. And from what you said about irony, I'm guessing you have a special ability that involves cats. With a smirk, Yoruichi seemingly disappeared in a plume of smoke and was replaced with a black cat with gorgeous glossy fur. If that wasn't enough to surprise the 2 medics, the masculine voice. You're pretty sharp, Lady Tsunade. What the hell? Shizune shouted in shock. However, Tsunade returned the smirk. So that's why people avoid black cats in general, and even if they heard you talking, they'd assume you were a male summoning cat. Changing back into her human form, she nodded. Yes, that's right, before you two, only Kushina and Lord Third know about my transformation. In any case, I'll add you to the barrier seal. But you should only come and go in your cat form to avoid being suspected out of helping us, since the 3 of us have been labeled traitors. Kushina said with a sigh. Olympus. Chamber of the Gods. All the gods of Olympus were watching the entire events of that unfold with some amusement, especially Apollo, who was shaking his head. I can't believe we forgot about the one person that was already within Konoha that would do anything to protect Kushina. While this is true, Yoruichi is in a difficult position being under the direct command of that idiot, Athena said. Kushina, Tsunade and her apprentice are in a tight spot as well. They won't be able to leave that barrier without being attacked. And that woman can only help them so much without blowing her cover. Hera said with slight worry. She was starting to like this mortal woman, especially after standing up to her husband the way she did. Unfortunately, there is nothing more we can do aside from the precautions we have already set in place. We must trust the mortals to survive this. Zeus said with a sigh before turning to his wisest daughter. How are your studies coming along? I will be ready, especially since I found the specific seal I'll be working to maintain. She said with a smile before looking at one of her sisters. Just be ready to help pacify that overgrown fox in 6 months. I know, I'll be ready. Artemis sighed. Both of you be ready. We need to ensure that our brother has his mother to help raise him properly. That will be the first step in ensuring the path to peace. Apollo said, trying to keep his sisters from fighting. He's right. Once my son is born, we can move on to the next stage of punishing Monado. Zeus said firmly before looking at his wife. We also need to end that farce of a marriage before the child is born as well. Hera scoffed and snapped her fingers, summoning the marriage certificate for the pair in question, and said, that isn't even an issue. Before having it disintegrate in golden particles. Konoha. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Monado felt his wedding ring shatter. What the hell is going on? What happened to my ring? He asked in a panic. At the same time, the ladies in the Uzumaki residence, Kushina, felt the same thing happen to her. Thank you, Lady Hera, she said with tears in her eyes. She knew that she was now free from her marriage. 6 months later, the last 6 months had been hard. Yoruichi had taken to getting them a month's supply of food, as well as Kushina's constant cravings for ramen and mint ice cream. During that time, Monado had been furious when he found his marriage certificate folder reduced to nothing but golden dust, a clear sign of intervention of that harpy everyone called Queen of the Gods. He had stepped up the pressure he put on his Anbu to kill Kushina, Tsunade, and Shizune, and had given orders to kill anyone else who aided them in any way. However, over the months, most of the Anbu caught on to the reason why their Hokage wanted his ex-wife dead. They watched the residents and say a very pregnant Kushina come out of the house to tend to her garden while Shizune took care of the yard. Many of them had families themselves and refused to harm a pregnant woman, even if that would mean treason. There were, of course, those completely blind in their loyalty and continued to try to find a way through the barrier. Even Jiraiya joined in on the hunt, even if Tsunade was on the opposing side. It was a week ago that Kushina's contractions were getting really bad, and Yoruichi decided that was the time to resign and be there as extra protection. It was during this time that Athena and Artemis had made their appearance and told the mortal women of their part in the plan to teach Monado a lesson. This was a major load off of Kushina's mind, even if she had been told about it from the beginning. Then again, it had been 9 months, and that's a really long time for a pregnant woman. It was during that week that Artemis worked with Kushina in an attempt to pacify the beast within. Flashback. Kushina, in order to help my sister with maintaining the seal as well as the stress on you, we need to talk with the fox and try to come to an understanding. Who knows, maybe we can get it to work with you. You want to be able to protect your son, right? Artemis said coyly. Working with the fox can help with you that. I don't know, Lady Mito told me not to trust the fox and keep it locked up tight, Kushina said hesitantly. Listen to me. How you feel if you were put under a genjutsu before being bound to a summoning contract, being used to fight again the man you call the first Hokage who had the ability to suppress your power, only to be sealed within his wife. Then at the moment you thought you could escape and be free, you were transferred to someone else with a stronger lock in place. The goddess of the hunt explained. I'd be ready to make my escape the first chance I get and destroy everything in my path to freedom and hate everything that is connected to those who have imprisoned me. Kushina sighed in defeat. How do we do this? We need to go into the seal and talk with it. Just remember, the fox will likely be very angry and want nothing more than to kill you and get out of the seal. Keep your guard up, Artemis said with a serious expression. Before she could blink, she found herself and Artemis standing in front of the 9-tailed fox, chained to a meteor over a volcano. Seeing its captor, the fox growled and started lashing out against the chains. Let me down from here so I can gut you like the worthless flesh bag you are, the fox roared. And don't think that you can control me, goddess of the hunt. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that. Kurama, Artemis said with a grin, and the fox lasted out at his name being revealed. How did you learn that name? Kurama growled. I've been around a lot longer than your father. You don't think I didn't notice when a demon was split into 9 demons with animal traits? As long as you have those, you fall within my domain," she said, earning another growl from the fox before turning to Kushina. "Kushina, change the scenery please, we aren't going to make much progress if he's strapped to a meteor like that. How about a forest?" Kushina nodded and focused. As she did, the area went from a smoldering volcano to a lush forest. Kurama locked in a cave big enough for him to stretch out and sleep comfortably on the floor, blocked by chakra chains with a whirlpool-designed lock holding it all together. Well, not quite what I had in mind, but at least he now has the smell of nature and big cave to sleep comfortably within rather than being chained to a meteor all the time. The goddess of the moon said, looking around the area. "So, we'll at least listen to what we have to say, Kurama." "Fine. But you don't need to say anything," the fox grumbled. "I swear on my father's grave I won't try to escape during the birth of your brother. I'd be a fool to anger the gods. Even if I did escape, my life wouldn't be free, would it? Actually, I would have asked you to protect my hunters in their forest from people that would cause them harm, but if you stay with Kushina and agree to at least attempt to get along and work together, the two of you together could help bring about the peace your father wanted," Artemis said with a shrug. "So, what do you say? Will you two work together? Or you try to escape and be my girl's protector?" Hearing this, Kurama was deep in thought. So was Kushina, but she voiced her thoughts. "Listen, I am willing to with you and my son to bring about peace. It may not be immediate, but I promise you that by the time my lifespan is done, I will find a way to safely remove you from me without killing me once we do bring the world a peace unlike any other. We'll give you till Kushina gives birth to decide. If you break out, then know which choice you've made," the patron goddess of Nadeshiko village said as she and Kushina left the redhead's mindscape, leaving the fox to make up his mind. Flashback end. It was after that conversation that Athena told the 3 mortal women of the plan to expose Minato as a cuckold, since they know he's kept his forced divorce a secret by wearing his academy ring as his wedding ring. They were going to rush Kushina to a public hospital and hope that Kurama made the right decision, or else a lot of people were going to die. One day while Kushina was doing dishes, having refused to just lay around being waited on hand and foot by others, she had the worst contraction yet. As well as hearing a splash of water hit the tile floor, she shouted at top of her lungs, "Tsunade! My water just broke." The 2 goddesses, medics, and former Anbu rushed in. "Tsunade, I will meet you at the hospital in the prepared room." Father and Lady Hera said they would be there for support as well. "Now hurry, we don't have long and those Black Ops mortals will likely try to target you on the way there, so be careful. My sister will follow from the shadows with her bow," Athena said as she turned into an owl and took off out the window. "Let's hurry. This baby wants to come now," Tsunade shouted as she picked up Kushina bridal style with Shizune close by for support and Yoruichi there to act as the vanguard. On the way, 20 Anbu tried to kill the 4 women, only be killed by Shizune, Artemis, or Yoruichi, while 30 others held off 40 of Minato's loyalist Anbu. It looked and felt like the village was involved in a civil war. But that's what they were trying to avoid, even if it was a possibility once news got out that Minato had angered the gods. At the hospital, the poor receptionist who was on the last minutes of her shift got startled. "Lady Tsunade, what is going on?" "No time for questions, I have a high-priority patient going into labor. There should be a heavily fortified room prepared. Now out of our way. I will fill out the paperwork later," Tsunade said while on the move with Shizune and Yoruichi close behind, and Artemis moving along the outside of the building to act as a guard until they reacted room. Once there, she materialized within, ready to take Kurama to the forest surrounding Nadeshiko village. Zeus and Hera were there waiting, only this time they were suppressing their power in hopes of not alerting everyone in the village like Zeus did last time. Little did they know that the child about to be born was going to do that for them. "Lady Hera, Lord Zeus, we need to hurry. This child wants out and he wants out now," the slug Sanin said hastily. "Shizune, get her on the table and help me with this delivery. Lady Athena, we're in your hands as well." While everyone was working to bring the demigod into the world, no one noticed an increasingly intense lightning storm raging outside, alerting Minato to the possibility that it was time for Kushina's bastard child to be born. However, he didn't exactly care at the moment as he was busy with Hana Inuzuka, mostly because Mebuki was also extremely pregnant, though he wasn't sure if it was his or that pink-haired fool that was always out the village on merchant business, even if the dirty blonde still came by daily. After an hour of screaming and cursing, even Kushina crushing the edge of the table in a show of strength through extreme pain. The baby boy's cry sounded through the hospital room and down the hall, leaving a very tired Kushina and a relieved group of gods and humans. Through Artemis had a smile on her face. I knew he'd chose to stay once I mentioned his father. Even so, I have to admit I was slightly worried. Kurama could have proved me wrong and chose to be my girl's guardian, but not before hurting a lot of people. Kushina raised her head and weakly held out her arms. Tsunade, give me my baby, give me my Naruto. Tsunade simply smiled and nodded as she gentle-handed over the red-headed baby boy while Athena was working to rebuild the seal. Congratulations, Kushina. Seems he is perfectly healthy and kept the Uzumaki genetic red hair. Off the side, Zeus looked on with his wife hugging him and looked up at him. Are you sure you want your son to be named after a ramen topping? Even weakened, Kushina's legendary tempered flared hearing this. However, she was as respectful as she could. Lady Hera, Naruto also means maelstrom. She paused as she saw a flash of lightning out of the corner of her eye. And judging from the light show outside, I think my son will take after his father in terms of power. Having heard this, they all looked out the window, with Zeus looking amused and the goddess's jaws to drop in shock. Father, I thought you were suppressing your power. Athena shouted after finishing the seal. I am. This is all your brother's doing. He grinned, overflowing with pride at the power his son was displaying. Well, I guess we don't need to worry about him being about to defend himself, Kushina said softly before gasping. Lord Zeus, he has your electric blue eyes. Everyone turned back to see Naruto's eyes were indeed open, and were indeed electric blue. However, what shocked the gods is that the child's eyes seemed to hold even more power, as if electricity was literally dancing around his iris. Hera got out her shock first. Suddenly Apollo's prophecy is making a lot more sense. If young Naruto has this much power from birth, he could easily destroy the world if he so wanted to. Earning stiff nods from everyone in the room. However, the reverence was short-lived as Kakashi aka Dog was at the door to the room, walking in without so much as a knock. Lady Uzumaki, Lady Senju, Miss Kato, and Miss Shihoin, you and the newborn are required to appear before Lord Hokage immediately. I have strict orders to bring you myself, even if we need to wheel Lady Uzumaki there via wheelchair with an IV drip. Hera was furious that this insect of immortal barged in, and not only ignored her and her family but was demanding the recovering mother and her newborn child be brought before the pissant they were punishing. How dare you ignore us, you pitiful mortal, and demand that these people be moved even though they are tired from their efforts to bring new life into the world. I do not take orders from individuals that have no authority within this village, nor do I acknowledge those claimed to be gods. The silver-haired Anbu said boldly, causing the patron goddess of the land of fire to almost lose her temper. Seeing this, Zeus put his hand on his wife's shoulder, as if to tell her not now, and addressed the cocky mortal with sparks flying from his eyes. You claim we don't have authority here? Fine. But we will be accompanying these ladies and the child to ensure their safety. They were attacked on their way here after all. I better let them come or I'll be in for a world of hurt. I may not acknowledge them as gods, but they are very powerful. Kakashi thought to himself before nodding with a sigh before getting a good look at the newborn in his sensei's ex-wife's arms. That kid is going to be a problem in the future, but I can't make a move on him without being obliterated. After getting Kushina into a wheelchair and Naruto wrapped in a blanket to keep warm, the group made their way to the Hokage Tower. Along the way, shinobi and civilians alike were in awe. After all, it wasn't every day they saw the gods of Olympus walking through the streets with 4 mortal women and a young baby. All of them recognized the woman holding the child as the Hokage's wife, and those that didn't agree with Minado's grandstanding and arrogant ego started whispering amongst themselves. Isn't that Lady Kushina? Why is she being escorted by the gods? One Jonin whispered. I don't know, but I highly doubt that child is the Hokage's, especially with all the girls that have been sleeping with him on a daily basis. If I had to guess, Lord Zeus there is making an example out of him, and if Lady Hera is with them, this is serious. A Chunin replied. Amongst the crowds were the 3 families and 2 students, and they smirked at the thought of ruining Minado's name by spreading the word that he angered the gods to point that even Lady Hera agreed to make an example out of him through his wife. Sume even more so, since she lost her daughter to that cheating pile of shit after trying to convince her to stop sleeping with the man, saying that he didn't actually care for her, but was using her like every other woman that has slept with him. Hannah responded by slapping her, saying that she was wrong, that Minato loved her, that she was special to the man, and that if she didn't support her love life, Then she wasn't worthy of being her mother and left with her 3 partner dogs and hasn't been back to the compound ever since. Overhearing the whispers, the gods smirked, knowing that the rumor mill has started and wouldn't be long before word spread throughout the world, while Kakashi was cursing his luck. Of course, people would pick this time to come out of their homes. The lightning storm has passed ever since that kid has fallen asleep. By morning word will spread about this and there will be nothing we can do about it. 10 minutes later, the group was in Minado's office, with Mebuki and Hana standing on either side of the blonde idiot. Minado, seeing that the so-called gods were in the room with his ex-wife, he knew he couldn't attack her or the bastard child without risking the lives of his concubines. Zeus, Hera, Athena, Artemis, to what honor does Konoha owe the pleasure of your presence? He asked, trying to sound polite, but to the gods, it sounded smug and arrogant, not to mention disrespectful. You had better address as properly mortal, or the dirty blonde next to you will have her daughter come out with an extraordinarily large forehead without the brain to match it. Hera fumed, knowing that regardless of her threat that the child was going to a large forehead, but with the brain to match it. Minado dear, I think we should listen to them, please, for my daughter. Mebuki pleaded, making the yellow flash sigh in resignation. Forgive me, lord and ladies. Minado ground out as if respecting the individuals in front of him made him physically ill. To answer your question, Worm, we are here to ensure the safety of my son and his mother and to inform you this is only the first of your punishments for your arrogance and actions. You have not only proclaimed you are better than us, but you trounced over your marriage by sleeping with not only these 2 whores, but multiple other women, and have personally destroyed our temples, as well as my wife's statue. Zeus said with authority. And what makes you think that I am afraid of you, are your punishments? I can make a law decreeing that no one can even whisper about Kushina being used to make an example out of me. Minado said calmly, showing that he wasn't intimidated at all. In fact, I've already sent word to the Land of Lightning, telling them that if they want a peace treaty between our 2 nations that I will send Kushina, who they have already tried to kidnap in the past, and her bastard child to them as a gift, wanting only their loyalty in return. This made the gods and mortal women laugh, and Kakashi frown under his Anbu mask, thinking to himself, Sensei, you're a fool. Zeus is the patron god of that country. Kushina and her son will be worshipped there. What is so funny? Mebuki raged. Your fool of a lover is an idiot. Artemis said with a smirk, causing the pregnant women to get even angrier. Lady Artemis, what do you mean? Hana asked with genuine confusion. Use your heads for a moment about what that man said and where he is sending his ex-wife. The green-haired goddess said with a smirk. If you 3 can't figure it out, then it sucks to be you. Tsunade picked this time to step up. In any case, with Lord Hokage's discussion made, Shizune and I will be resuming our travels and cutting all ties to this village. We will be leaving first thing in the morning, which by the way, should be when Kushina is well enough to travel thanks to her Uzumaki healing factor coupled with my medical expertise. And since I resigned and have proof of your acceptance of it, I will be accompanying Kushina and her son. I have always been loyal to her above all else. Yoruichi said with a smirk. Now, if you'll excuse us. Athena said as she opened the door, with Zeus showing his strength by lifting the wheelchair containing both Kushina and their baby with ease, and walking out the door with everyone following him, leaving 3 dumbfounded idiots behind along with a disappointed Anbu. What did they mean by I'm an idiot? Minado thought, clearly not being able to come up with the answer. 15 minutes later. Uzumaki residence. Alright, we need to return to Olympus. If you are truly leaving at first light tomorrow, we will arrange for flight-enabled transports to meet you at the gate to ensure Naruto's safety. I imagine that when they realize that their beloved Hokage is sending to the one place that you 2 will live in luxury, they will send their forces to bring you back. Zeus said, earning nods of agreements from his wife and children. Tsunade, Shizune, and Yoruichi nodded in agreement. However, they all saw Kushina seemed sad for some reason. Milady, what's wrong? Yoruichi asked softly. It's nothing. I'm just sad that I have to leave my home behind for a second time. She said quietly. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled to be getting away from Minado's influence, but I have mixed feelings about going to Kumo. They were 1/3 road of the forces that helped destroy my first home. Then they tried to kidnap me when I was in the academy here. I just don't know how to feel about this. I mean, I know that I and my son will be well taken care of there, but... Tsunade nodded and put a comforting hand on her shoulder. We'll be fine. If they try to use you as a breeding machine, I'll level their village with my own hands. Thank you. Kushina said with a small smile. Yoruichi, can I count on you to help Shizune and Tsunade pack everything? All the scrolls containing my family's jutsu, notes on fuinjutsu, kenjutsu, and my family's history. Leave behind any pictures containing that idiot and the furniture, but seal everything else up. I guess it's a good thing that we emptied your bank account when Minato sent the Anbu to try to kill us, Tsunade said with a grin. Yes it is, and don't even think about spending any of it at the gambling halls. The new mother teased, knowing that Tsunade hasn't been to a gambling hall since she arrived, and it seems Tsunade knew this since she just shrugged and got to work sealing everything with the other two. Seeing that they weren't needed anymore, the gods simply vanished to make the preparations for the mortals' trip to the land of lightning. The next morning, Konoha's gate. It was barely sunrise, but Kushina her family, extended or not arrived at the front gates only to find Hermes sitting in a carriage with two Pegasus tethered to it. Having sensed them, Hermes jumped down from his seat and bowed. It's an honor to meet you again, Lady Tsunade, Miss Shizune. However, I do believe this is the first time we've met Lady Kushina, Miss Yoruichi. I am Hermes, and I will be your driver to your new home, he said before noticed the tuft of red hair sticking out of the blankets Kushina was holding. And this must be my new brother. I look forward to getting to know him over the years. Nice to meet you again, Hermes. I figured it'd be you Lord Zeus sent, Tsunade said with a smile. Lady Tsunade, you really should show him some respect, Shizune chided. Oh, don't worry about it. Hermes waved it off before opening the carriage door. Well, shall we be off? It'll take us a few days if not a week to reach our destination, depending on weather and young Naruto needing to be changed. Thank you for your help, Hermes, Kushina said with her usual bright foxy smile before climbing in with her son securely in one arm with the other women following close behind. So, this is goodbye, Konoha. Take care of yourself, my dear friends and students. I hope we can meet again someday. Kushina thought as she looked out the window with a sad smile, not knowing that not only would she meet them again, nor that something that would cause Konoha to become a massive target for invasion and annihilation. It's been 1 week since Kushina and her family had been escorted from Konoha, and she had to do her best to keep her son in a good mood. After all, being in the sky while lightning was flashing about wasn't exactly safe, and they quickly learned that when Naruto was hungry or upset that he'd summon a lightning storm like his father. Upon their arrival, it seems all of the hidden cloud village had been waiting for them. At the front of the crowd was Zeus, Hera, and the Raikage, who like his predecessor, had the additional title of I. Hera smiled. I hope your flight was a safe one. As long we kept the little one happy, yeah, we were fine. We sure knew if he was hungry or grumpy. Hermes sighed. You're telling me. 1 minute it was clear skies, the next we were dodging lightning until he calmed down. Tsunade groaned. Bawahaha. That's my boy. Zeus laughed heartily only to get elbowed by his wife. Oh come on. He was only born a week ago, he can't control his power yet. Maybe not laugh at their misfortune, my dear. The Queen of the Gods said in a too sweet tone that scared everyone in the audience and makes the travelers chuckle nervously, and Naruto wake up crying causing another storm. Shish. It's okay, it's okay. Kushina trying to calm her son down before giving a mild glare to the goddess, who looked sheepish. I do apologize, Lady Kushina, but if Lady Hera had not woken the young master, the parade and fireworks would have. After all, the son of Zeus deserves a grand welcome along with the royal treatment, the Raikage said in his usual stern voice. The redhead gave the massive man a glare that only a mother could muster. Lord Raikage, I will accept your grand welcome, however, I will not allow my son to become arrogant and spoiled. Besides that, I believe you and I need to have chat about 20 or so years ago. Yes, of course. We can talk this evening, I said with a nod, understanding that it is not only one topic she wanted to talk about. However, before that, I give you my word that you and your family will be safe here despite the treaty Konoha offered us. Thank you, she said with a small smile. All right, my wife and I need to get back. We just wanted to make sure you got here safely and ensure you'd be treated properly. Hermes, I assume you'll be returning to your duties? Zeus asked, getting a nod from the messenger god. Thanks for the lift. That would have been a pain in the ass to make our way here on foot, especially with a newborn, Tsunade said with a smirk. Happy to help. See you around perhaps, Hermes said as he flew off with the carriage, hiding a small smile as he left. I hope you remember your promise to Dan and Nawaki, Tsunade. As promised, There was a grand parade. The entire village lined the streets, celebrating the arrival of Zeus' true successor, calling him the Prince of Thunder after seeing the terrible lightning storm he summoned, one far worse than his father had summoned in eons. It was causing Kushina and company to be both embarrassed from the attention, and full of pride in the child, and full of confidence that they were going to be safe. Following the parade, fireworks were launched from the Raikage Tower, and surprising the noise didn't both Naruto, in fact, he garbled, giggled, and wriggled around in his mother's arms, even giving off tiny electric spark like fireworks of his own each time he clapped his hands in excitement. My dear baby boy is so powerful, I fear for those that oppose him in the future. We'll have to be careful not to get shocked unintentionally. Kushina thought with a small smile. After the fireworks, the Raikage's assistants led the family to the house that was prepared for them, courtesy of both the gods and the Raikage, though calling it a house would be an insult. It was a 20-room, 4-bathroom, 3-story mansion, with a basement with a section tailored into a fuinjutsu lab. The front gate had the Uzumaki swirl, as did the archway over the front door. However, above the house was a flag with the symbol of the gods flapping in the wind. Kushina and her family were overwhelmed, to say the least. When they actually got to exploring, they saw that one of the rooms was heavily insulated to withstand any electrical output that Naruto may out, big enough to replace the cradle with a bed, and continue to update the bed up to a king-sized one and still have plenty of room to move around freely. They even noticed the yard was big enough to act as a training ground for them. The redhead decided that she'd be getting to work quickly on a barrier around the grounds of her family's home. After all, while she knew that Zeus said they'd be safe there, she didn't quite trust the Raikage to try something, nor did she forgive this country for their part in the destruction of her home, but they had nowhere else to go at present and it would be a bad idea to refuse a gift from the gods, even if it was likely compensation for her part in her ex-husband's punishment. A few days later, Kumo Anbu arrived at the Uzumaki mansion only to see the barrier put in place. Knowing not to underestimate an Uzumaki when it came to fuinjutsu, the Anbu knocked on the gate, knowing it would send some sort of signal to the occupants. After a few minutes of waiting, Yoruichi came to the gates. "Good morning, how can I help you?" she said professionally. "I apologize for coming so early, but the Raikage requests Lady Uzumaki's presence in his office. He said she'd been wanting to talk to him, but gave her and the other occupants of this house time to settle in." The masked Black Ops member replied. "Very well. I will fetch her, then we can be off. I only hope this meeting doesn't take long. Lord Naruto gets cranky when he isn't fed on time," the former Konoha Anbu said, getting a nod in return as she turned to do as she said she would. 15 minutes later, Kushina arrived at the gates, having left her son with Tsunade and Shizune. "Let's get this over with. But know that I don't plan to stay any longer than noon unless the Raikage wants a storm to be summoned over his village by my son's hunger." All the Anbu did was nod and put his hand on the mother's shoulder before using the body flicker technique to take them to their destination. Once there, the Anbu knocked on the Raikage's door and awaited the acknowledgement before entering the room with Kushina in tow. "Ah, Lady Kushina, thank you for coming. I'm sorry for summoning you at this hour, but there are things we need to discuss that, quite frankly, cannot wait any longer," I said professionally. "I suppose you're right. However, as I told your Anbu, I must be back home by noon unless you want a storm destroying your village, courtesy of my son's hunger," Kushina said sternly as she sat down in the chair opposite the village leader. "That would be a shame." He chuckled before getting serious. "I wish to apologize for my predecessor's decision to get involved in the attack on Uzushio, as well as our involvement in its destruction. This was the main reason I agreed to take you into my village. I could honestly care less about a treaty with a village that lets its leader abuse his power to indulge in his own pleasures. However, we must keep up appearances so as not to bring the war to our doorstep." "And my kidnapping attempt? Was that you or your predecessor?" she said with a stern look on her face, not showing her gratitude for the apology. "I am afraid that was my doing. While the means may have been inappropriate, I only wished to save you from being used for your burden and to make amends for our part in the destruction of your home. However, it seems my forces misunderstood and thought I wanted you for breeding purposes. Regardless, the fault lies with me alone," the massive man said solemnly. The redhead sighed, sensing no deceit in his voice or eyes. "Very well, but do not think that because I am accepting your apology means that I forgive you or trust you. That will take time for you to earn. As your operative noticed, I have erected a barrier around the grounds of my family's mansion that only allows those I deem trustworthy to enter, meaning they will need to add it to the matrix to enter. Now, I'm sure you wish to ask me to join your forces, however, I have my son to take care of, and I will not leave him alone any longer than needed until he is old enough to start training. Actually no, I wasn't going to ask that of you at this point and time. I know for Uzumaki, loyalty to one's family goes beyond all else. I will however ask that you consider it at such point that the young lord can start training, he said sternly before grinning. I also ask that give this same request to your family and housemates. Having Tsunade and her apprentice will not only be a major boon to Kumo but be a major blow to that sorry excuse of man, Minato. Not to mention the infamous Yoruichi, who is rumored to be just as good at infiltration as Jiraiya, if not better. Kushina nodded, understanding where he was coming from. Very well, I'll ask them, but it's their decision. Agreed. I cannot force anyone, especially not emissaries of our patron god, Zeus. The Raikage nodded. While he did want Kushina to restart the Uzumaki clan within the Hidden Cloud, he wasn't going to come out and say it so plainly, namely due to knowing her trust in men was likely shaken, if not broken thanks to what she's been through. Not to mention he didn't want to incur the god's wrath by forcing the family to do something they didn't want to. She just turned away and made her way to the door. Now, if you'll excuse me, she didn't trust him at all, even less after this exchange. From what was said, he was after her family's bloodline, but Zeus and likely Hera probably threatened to level the village if anything happened to her and her family. Right now her only concern was taking care of her son and raising him properly. She'd keep her word and relay the invitation, but also include her speculations. 7 years later, at the Uzumaki mansion, a 7-year-old boy with crimson-red hair was returning home from his first day at the academy. He was a little taller than the other students, standing at almost 4.5 feet tall, but he thought nothing of it since he was aware of his status as a demigod. He couldn't walk throughout the town without being bowed at, given free food as tributes or offerings, and being called the Prince of Thunder. Of course, his mother had told him that he was the son of Zeus, but had yet to explain the circumstances of his birth. However, his mother had told him not to let it go to his head, that no liked a jerk. Naruto sighed as he hauled the latest tributes in the house, only to be met by one of his big sister figures, Shizune, who sighed as well when she saw what he was carrying. Did you have a good day at the academy? She asked as she took some of the load off him, leading him to the kitchen to put things away. Besides all the teachers and most of the students trying to suck up to me, yeah. Levi was there to run interference with all the fangirls. Mom was right. I'm going to deal with them probably my entire life, all because my father is king of the gods, and patron god of the land of lightning. Oh. Shizune said with a smirk. My little brother has a girlfriend already, huh? Please don't. The entire school is already spreading rumors about the two of us. We may be childhood friends, but Mom would never let me date this early, no matter how much she likes Levi. Naruto sighed. You didn't deny that you like her. She teased. Whatever. Where's Mom? Normally she's the one that meets me at the gate? He redirected. She had a mission. She asked me to apologize to you and said she'd be back in a few days. The medic frowned. Was it father or the Raikage? The demigod asked in a disappointed tone. Kushina had kept her word and started taking on missions for the village, but also requests from Zeus as well. I don't know if it was Lord Zeus or not, but there was a request delivered by Lord Hermes. I don't know the details, but it must be important. Shizune replied pensively. Alright. Is Granny or Yoruichi here, or are they two on missions? The redhead asked discouragingly. Lady Tsunade is working at the hospital but will be home for supper. As for Yoruichi, I don't know where she is. She responded. I'm right here. I was just taking a cat nap. A masculine voice was heard from behind Shizune, startling her. There was a familiar black cat sitting on the floor. Lady Yoruichi. You know I hate it when you do that. The black cat shouted, holding her chest. Naruto chuckled, as did the cat before she released her transformation. Thankfully the dark-skinned beauty was dressed. She wasn't going to make the mistake of walking around naked in her cat form again, not after getting a stern lecture from both Kushina and Tsunade. My apologies, she said to Shizune with a smirk, showing she wasn't sorry before turning to Naruto. I'm glad you had a good day at the academy. How is darling Levi doing? She's fine, she actually seems excited about school. Then again, she has always loved books and learning. Though she had a hard time focusing on opening lessons thanks to being my fangirl deterrent. Not that she seemed to mind, she was still her usual smiling self at lunch. he said with a small, almost unnoticeable blush. Oh. You two had lunch together. Sounds like a date to me. Shizune teased with Yoruichi smiling. Take it easy on the kid, Shizune. Nothing wrong with best friends having lunch together, especially since she was acting as his deterrent. The purple-haired woman said, deciding to save her godson. Anyway, I'm going to the backyard to train, Naruto said, getting out of dodge, causing the women to giggle. Once he made it to the backyard they used as training grounds, he notices someone around Shizune's age. A young woman with long purple hair tied up with a hair buckle, purple eyes, a green collar with a ring holding up her halter top on top of a black tank top, green arm guards, black fingerless gloves, black shorts, a green belted battle dress and green knee-high boots. She was holding a glaive with a red metal shaft. Naruto looked at her with a deadpan stare. Who the hell are you? And how the hell did you get past the barrier? Only those keyed by my mom can get in. The purple-haired warrior raised her hand as if to silence him. Hold. Son of Zeus, I am here on orders from your father, and with approval from your mother. I am Jade, and I am here to train you in the way of the spear. Once you are older, there is a weapon from Lord Zeus for you. She paused before unsealing a beautiful glaive. The blade itself had a heavenly glow and looked far deadlier than the one she had in her other hand. The shaft was the same red metal, only it had a golden dragon decoration with its head on one side and the wings on either side of the blade. This is called Heaven's Talon. It was forged by Hephaestus and will be able to handle your lightning powers. Zeus has asked me to request your mother make it so that only you can hold and use it, seeing as how it was made especially for you when she gets back from her mission. It's a beautiful blade, he said as reached out to hold it in a daze, almost as if the weapon was calling to him. Seeing this, the beautiful fighter handed him the glaive only to immediately jump back as he grabbed hold. The moment he had it in his hands, lightning struck the blade and arced all over the field, causing Shizune and Yoruichi to run out to check on what was going on, only to see Naruto surrounded by lightning, as if encasing him in an armor of lightning, leaving him completely unharmed. It would seem that I may not need to make that request of Lady Kushina, Jade thought as she relaxed from her initial shock. What is going on here? And who are you? Yoruichi asked in a frenzy, ready to attack the intruder. Shizune was the same. I'm okay. In fact, I've never felt so alive, Naruto said, easing his family's worries before he chuckles. This is an amazing weapon. It's amplifying my power, acting as a conductor. I can't wait to be able to wield her properly. As far as who I am, my name is Jade and I was sent by Lord Zeus with Lady Kushina's approval to be Lord Naruto's trainer in the art of the spear. Although I only have limited permission until she returns from her mission. If I were to leave the perimeter I would not be able to re-enter, the glaive wielder said, calming the two adults down farther. She was in a rush when she left because Lady Kushina tells me about new arrivals ahead of time, so it's likely she forgot this time. The dark-skinned beauty thoughtfully. Doesn't explain what is going on. The medic apprentice frowned, crossing her arms under her chest. If you're talking about the lightning action, it happened when he grabbed hold of the blade after reaching out for it after I presented it to him. It is a gift from his father, the younger purple-haired woman said. I see. Well, at least we can confirm that lightning cannot hurt him, at least while holding that glaive. Though it is something we don't wish to test voluntarily, Naruto's godmother said wryly. It was then that the barrier alerted everyone that there was a guest wishing entry. Shizune, can you see who that is? As guardian of this house and Naruto's godmother, I need to stay and keep an eye on our visitor until Lady Kushina returns, she requested. The medic sighed and left to do asked while both purple-haired women had a stare down while Naruto finally let go of Heaven's Talon, allowing Jade to seal it once again until he was old enough and tall enough to wield it properly. Out front, a small blue-haired girl Naruto's age was waiting for someone to come to the gate. This was Levi Magarden, Naruto's childhood friend since they were 4 years old. She was a petite girl with blue shoulder-length hair that was tied up with a bandana that would be seen as kind of wild without and brown eyes. She arrived just before the lightning struck the backyard, and since she knew about her best friend's powers, she was worried something happened to upset him. While she didn't fawn over him for being the son of Zeus, she was his friend because he saved her from bullies, making fun of her for her wild, blue hair, by frying them with his uncontrolled power, leaving them half dead, never again gaining full motor function. They have been inseparable ever since. Ah, Levi. Welcome. Naruto told me you played deterrent for him at the academy. We weren't expecting you to drop by so soon. Surely your parents are wanting you home for supper. Shizune said, shaking the girl out of her thoughts. Actually, Mom said I can stay as long as I am home before bedtime, even if she knows you have the room to put me up for the night. Never mind that. Is Naruto okay? I saw that lightning strike as I was walking up. The blue-haired girl asked, clearly worried. Oh, he's fine. His father sent someone with a gift as well as train how to use it. The medic said with a smile before deciding to tease the girl. Did you do it because you have a crush on him, I wonder? What? No. I was just being a good friend and helping out. They only care about his name as an Uzumaki and status as a demigod. The young girl denied through a deep blush on her cheeks. Shizune had a huge grin on her face and sounded off with a yeah huh, before motioning for the blue-haired girl to follow. In the backyard, Levi noticed the green-clad glaive wielder and noticed how beautiful she was before running over to her friend. Naruto. Are you alright? What caused that lightning strike? I thought that only happened while you were really upset. She asked rapid fire in concern while looking over him for injuries. I'm fine, really. Zeus gave me a gift that acted as an amplifier and conductor. As soon as I touched it, I was encased in a lightning-like armor. He said before looking at Jade. Hey, can you show her? She's my best friend. Fine, but turn around, you seem to be drawn to it. She said, pointedly, earning a sigh from the redhead, and did as instructed while muttering he would be able to control himself this time. Once she unsealed it, Levi was awestruck. While she may not be a weapon enthusiast, she knew a beautiful and deadly weapon when she saw one. Wow. I can see why'd you be drawn to a weapon this beautiful. This is a very generous gift. This will help you make a name for yourself out there for sure. The blue-haired girl said in awe. Yeah, the best gift he's given me. He said with a big grin. That and Miss Jade was sent to teach me how to use Heaven's Talon, the weapon's name. Oh. My apologies. I'm Levi McGarden, Naruto's childhood friend. A pleasure to meet you, Miss Jade. The petite girl said with a bow, ashamed she didn't introduce herself right away. It's fine. You were worried about your friend. It's nice to meet you, Levi. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other, given how close you and Lord Naruto seem. Jade said with a flip of her absurdly long hair, clearly not bothered before turning to Naruto. We'll begin training tomorrow. However, I need someone to go out and buy a practice weapon before then. Shizune sighed, figuring she'd be on go for deal, however she was surprised when Yoruichi spoke up. I'll go. I can sense Lady Tsunade on her way. Keep an eye on our guest. I assure you, I've been grilled by Lord Zeus and Lady Hera. I will not harm the young master. I'd rather not incur their wrath. Jade said, trying to keep the irrational out of her voice at the overprotective swordswoman. At least what I heard about her is correct. I think we'll get along just fine once I gain her trust. As Yoruichi left, Tsunade walked in and they repeated the process of introductions, showing Heaven's Talon, and the green-clad female warrior swearing she means no harm to the demigod. However, unlike the former Anbu and sworn protector of the family, Tsunade warmly welcomed the new arrival. The rest of the evening went off much an issue. Levi and Naruto were joined at the hip as usual, Yoruichi still wary of her fellow purple-haired woman, but Jade simply shrugged it off and was doing maintenance on her weapon off in a corner. Shizune made dinner for everyone. By the end of the night, Naruto walked Levi home after Tsunade suggested he do it, both sporting small blushes since they knew they'd be teased even more by Levi's parents. 5 years later, Kumo Academy, it was graduation day. Naruto, Levi, and the rest of the students were excited to get out of the academy and out in the world to make a name for themselves. Naruto, thanks to his training and his demigod blood, shot up like a beanstalk. He stood at 5 feet 4, taller than most of the genin hopefuls. His red hair was long and spiked, the back tied into a ponytail. His body wasn't overly muscled, instead was more of a swimmer's build. Leaning against his desk in between him and Levi was Heaven's Talon, much to the envy of every other student. As for his attire, he wore a tight red muscle shirt that seemed to cling to his muscles, arm guards made of the same metal as his weapon's blade only colored red with blue elbow-length fingerless gloves underneath, blue shinobi pants tied up with a golden belt embroidered with the symbol of the gods, and blue shinobi sandals. Needless to say that his fangirls got even more ravenous than ever, much to the two childhood friends' chagrin. Speaking of Levi, she was still petite, standing at 4 feet 5 inches with a slender yet toned build. However, despite that, she had accepted she'll always be short in stature. Her hair remained the same, tied in her colorful bandana, wearing a blue corset-like vest leaving her yellow bikini top-clad chest exposed as well as her stomach. She had beige knee-length carpi pants with a red belt and red-heeled sandals. Her belt held the standard ninja tool carrying case. Off in the back corner of the class was a quiet girl that had short pale blue hair, blue eyes, with twin hair clips on her bangs, wearing a green one-armed coat, black fingerless gloves, black short shorts, green battle dress buckled around her waist with black combat boots. Next to her was a bow and quiver of arrows. This was Sinon, one of the top 3 of the class, only falling behind Naruto and Levi in grades, and unlike the other girls, she didn't fawn over Naruto. She really didn't care one way or another who he was or who his parents were or what clan he was from. She kept to herself, focused on her studies, her training, and avoided other people. "Hey, do you think we'll end up on the same team?" Levi asked in a nervous voice, silently hoping she was paired with her childhood friend and crush. "I'm sure we will. The Raikage knows how well we work together, and as much as I hate to rely on my name and status, I don't think he'd risk separating us at the risk of upsetting both my mother and my father. He and Aunt Hera have taken a liking to you," he said with a sigh. "Although, I'm not sure who our third teammate will be. I just hope it's not that worrywart Omoi. That guy gets on my nerves." "Hey, he's not that bad," she said, only to get a deadpan stare in return, plainly saying, "Really? Okay. Yeah, he can ramble on about things that might not happen, but he's an alright guy. Yeah, he's alright when he's not worrying about every little thing. I just don't think he's cut out to be a shinobi with that worrywart attitude." He spoke his opinion. It was Levi's turn to sigh, but she could see where her best friend was coming from. She just wishes he wasn't so blunt about it. The aforementioned student looked back to the two friends with a frown. He had dark skin, short white spiky hair, dark eyes, wearing a dark gray overlong shirt with a hood, red bandage handguards, black baggy pants, shins wrapped in the same red bandages, back shinobi sandals with a white-handed katana strapped to his back with a red sheath. A red-haired girl next to him scowled. She was another one of the few that didn't fawn over the demigod and actually didn't like him, since they were both hotheads and butted heads all the time. And while she agreed with him about Omoi's worrywart tendencies, she didn't agree that it would prevent him from being a shinobi. The white-haired boy had the proper skills. When the chips were down, he'd do his job, which has been shown in spars during classes. "Alright class, calm down," the Chunin sensei said as he walked in, causing everyone to quiet down and take their seats for those who were in their groups. "Now, as you know, today is graduation day. However, unlike our weak allies in Konoha, who have written tests, kunai and shuriken throwing, taijutsu matches, and what they consider to be the 3 basic jutsus, here we will be testing your abilities with the weapon of your choice as well. Display a low-level jutsu, doesn't matter if it's elemental or not." With that, he started handing out the written portion of the test. Once he was finished, he took his place behind the desk in front of the room. "You have 30 minutes. Begin." Everyone breezed through the test. Levi and Naruto finished in half the time, given their study sessions, and Kushina drilling everything she knew into their heads. Sinon, Omoi, Karui, and a blonde-haired, cream-skinned girl that was obviously an early bloomer, finished minutes later. Others were struggling with it. Naruto smirked. "What fools. Makes me wonder if they shouldn't be over in Konoha with the rest of those tree-huggers." "Time's up. Pencils down now," the teacher said with his arms crossed as he stood up as many students groaned. "Follow me outside for the rest of your tests." All the students filed out of the room after grabbing their weapons and into the training field. Everyone standing in their preferred groups, Naruto with Levi, Omoi with Karui, Samui with her brother reluctantly, Sinon off her own. "Alright, each of you will square off with another student. And Naruto, no using your abilities to shock your opponent. I don't want to rush someone to hospital again." Naruto just shrugged and laughed it off. He knew the instructor was teasing him. In the last 7 years, he's gotten full control over his demigod powers. However, during one of his spars against a bully that often went after Levi and the other girls, saying girls didn't have any place in a shinobi world, he hit said bully with a lightning-packed punch to the chest, causing the kid's heart to stop. Thankfully the bully didn't die, however. His career was over before it began, since a side of the punch caused his nervous system to short-circuit and did a number on his brain. "Alright, when I call your name, step into the ring." The winner is decided by ring out, knockout, or submission. You will be graded on your performance. I reserve the right to stop the fight if I think it's getting out of hand. Taijutsu only this round, the teacher said before looking at his list. Naruto versus Tai. Naruto smirked and stretched out while Tai was nervous as well. Hey, hold on to her for me, will ya, Levi? The demigod said, handing his best friend his weapon. Heaven's Talon was keyed up with Fuinjutsu so that only Naruto, Levi, and his family could hold it, but only Naruto could bring out its full capabilities. Anyone else who tried got a nasty shock, one that leaves their arm numb for a full day. Sure. But try not to hit the poor boy too much. We still have other tests to do, she said with a smirk of his own, knowing full well he was going to dominate this match. Alright, you two. I want a clean match. No hitting each other in sensitive areas, the teacher said as both of them stepped into the ring. Naruto slipped into his own taijutsu style, a low kind of position, his hands looking like he was holding his glaive, but in a loosely closed fist, while sweating Tai slipped into the standard academy stance, already knowing he was going to get his ass handed to him. Alright. Begin. Faster than anyone but the Chunin could see, mainly because Naruto was holding back, the red-haired boy let loose a flurry of punches all across his opponent's body, not only knocking him out but not even knowing what hit him as he hit the ground. Sighing, the Chunin raised his arm on Naruto's side and declared him the winner. Next, Levi versus Tita. Wish me luck? Levi asked as she handed Heaven's Talon back to its rightful owner. You don't need it. You've got this, he said, giving her a brief hug causing her to blush slightly. Unknown to them, Sinon was watching them closely. Can those two be any more obvious that they like each other? I seriously hope I'm not on a team with those lovebirds. In the ring, Tita, a girl with a similar build to Levi, only less toned, showing that she was both a civilian and didn't have access to proper training. The poor girl looked nervous after seeing her friend Tai. Levi gave her a small smile before slipping into her taijutsu stance, one arm raised across her chest, the other lower on her body, drawn back ready to strike, and as the same as Naruto, she kept her hands in loose fists. The Chunin sighed, knowing this was likely another quick fight. What was Lord Raikage thinking pairing them against people they obviously outclass? Alright. Begin. Like Naruto, Levi shot off in a burst speed and let loose a flurry of strikes, leaving the poor girl in a daze before she fell to the ground. It was clear that her taijutsu style was more meant to be used in tandem while dual-wielding kunai. Winner. Levi. Next. Sinon versus Kilika. The Chunin said. Hopefully, this will be a little fairer. Though Sinon has always been a recluse, she'll want to end this quickly. Begin. And true to what the Chunin expected, as Kilika charged at the blue-haired bow woman, Sinon dodged each strike while stepping back towards the end of the ring only to grapple her opponent and hip-toss her out of the ring. Bloody hell. Kilika said as she landed on her ass. Sinon just walked away without a care in the world and leaned against the wall where she left her bow. The Chunin called it. Ring out. Sinon wins. The rest of the students were paired off, and all of them except for Omoi, Karui, Samui, and her brother were pitiful. Some were knocked out and not looking like they'd be able to continue the examinations. The instructor just sighed. Alright, all of you who are able to continually move to the range. Time for the shuriken and kunai portion of the exam. 5 will be stationary, and 5 will be moving, so do your best. First up, Sinon. Instructor, is it possible to get my weapon portion at the same time? This where I'd need for it to be anyhow, she said in a monotone voice. Yes, I suppose that would save us time. Very well, after we've collected your other weapons you may go ahead with your bow, he nodded. Without another word, she threw all 10 kunai at once, all of them hit the bullseye, some even making him and every male present wince and grab their crotches. After the kunai was removed, she did the same with her shuriken. Okay. Perfect score, but was that really necessary? The instructor whimpered only to earn a yes in response, making him sigh. Alright. Again with your bow and arrows, but please, don't aim for the crotches again. No promises, she said as she started walking away from the targets back over 100 yards away before turning around and letting loose 10 arrows, all of them taking the head portions to clean off of the targets, shocking everyone present. How on earth? At that distance, she shouldn't even be able to see the targets, much less take the heads to clean off. The instructor thought to himself before he spoke aloud. Well done. Come on back. Impressive. With my close to mid-range abilities, she'd be the perfect teammate. Naruto thought to himself, highly impressed, as was Levi as they watched Sinon walk back to her previous spot as she ignored the demigod's gaze. After a few minutes of replacing the targets, the instructor called up Naruto, and like Sinon, he nailed all bullseyes, minus the crotch shots. So did Levi, Samui, Karui, and Omoi. Only Samui's brother missed one with both kunai and shuriken. The rest of the students got bare minimum scores to pass. Alright. Everyone line up. Time for the ninjutsu. As I call your name, I want you to perform each jutsu. Bonus points for those who are able to do element versions of clones or stronger versions. First up. Naruto Uzumaki. Remember, you are required to perform one extra jutsu, so mind your chakra levels. The instructor said, earning a deadpan stare from everyone in the class. Right. Uzumaki on top of being a demigod. Naruto summoned 4 seal-less shadow clones to keep the jutsu secret, but everyone, aside from Levi, was shocked when they say they were solid clones. Next, he replaced himself with a rock when a blunt kunai was thrown at him seamlessly, then he transformed into the teacher, earning applause from everyone. Well done. And your final jutsu? And please, make it an actual jutsu, not one of your special abilities, the teacher asked. What to display? Levi said she was going to be doing something with Fuinjutsu and her Kekkei Genkai to draw in the air with her chakra. Oh, I know. He thought as a grin appeared on his face. Instructor, you and everyone else may want to back up. Levi sighed. You better listen to him, guys. If I'm right, he's gonna show off a wide area jutsu. So if you don't want to get electrocuted, back up. Deciding to listen to her since she knew him best, everyone did as asked and back up against the academy. Once they did, Naruto flipped through his hand signs before slamming his hand on the ground, screaming. Lightning style, Thunder Dome. And as he did, an explosion of electricity shot out from his hand and spread out in a 5-foot radius, charring the ground at the same time, frightening most of the students. Really, Naruto? Did you have to do something on this scale? The Chunin said, sighed while shrugging his shoulders, seeing the redhead's massive grin. Well, whatever, full marks. Go back and stand with others. With a nod, he made his back to the others and stood next to Levi, only to get an elbow to the gut and a cute glare from her. Did you really have to show off like that? Didn't your mom and Miss Jade teach you that being discreet was part of being a shinobi? Hey. This was a showcase event. Because. Nothing discreet about my power. Lightning is very flashy, and it's part of who I am, he protested. I suppose that's true. Just be careful in the field, don't want to end up frying allies or a client, she said with a sigh. Next, Sinon. The Chunin said with the blue-haired girl sighed and made her way to the charred field. She did each jutsu flawlessly, doing a fire-style clone for the extra credit, and finished off with doing the great fireball jutsu made famous by the Uchiha clan in Konoha. Well done. Full marks. The Chunin said before calling the student with some interest. Next, Levi. Alright, she said as she made her way to the field, looking and had a smirk. Alright, figuring out her extra jutsu. She summoned a lightning-style clone for the extra credit, performed the substitution jutsu flawlessly, and transformed into Kushina, almost scaring the instructor since he had a healthy degree of fear and respect for the Uzumaki matriarch. Well done, can you drop the transformation? The poor guy stammered, earning a smirk from Naruto's best friend as she returned normal. Now, let's fix this up, shall we? She said before she waved her finger in the air, causing Fuinjutsu symbols to appear. Ninja secret art. Field restoration. And with that, the damage Naruto did with his Thunderdome was reversed as if never happened, shocking everyone but the demigod, who was smirking. She could have sworn the look on his face was just saying, "You're welcome," as if he planned it that way, and knowing him, she wouldn't put it past him, he always was crafty. Well done. And thank you. I didn't want to have to deal with this later. I was afraid I'd have asked Lady Uzumaki for help. The Chunin shuddered. Who do you think taught me? She said with a grin, causing the poor man to groan. He should have figured that she'd be learning from her best friend's mother, especially given the girl's unique Kekkei Genkai. Alright. Let's move on, he said, wanting to move past the topic. Later, the Genin hopefuls were all sitting in the classroom waiting for the results of the exams. While everyone knew that 6 people were a shoo-in to graduate. They were just wondering how many of them failed. Especially those who were knocked out by Naruto and Levi. Those two scared every student there, which they suppose it was appropriate that they were monsters being trained by a monster themselves. Their parents told them horror stories of what Kushina was capable of, not to mention the fact that Naruto was a demigod. Tai was just thankful that he wasn't on receiving end of a lightning-enhanced fist. When the Raikage, the headmaster, and their Chunin instructor walked into the room, they all knew this was it. Naruto was surprised even more when he looked out the window to see a very distinctive eagle perched outside the window, looking directly at him and Levi before looking at the proceeding. Not very subtle old man. He thought, elbowing Levi to let her know. "Yano. I've wanted to him, just never expected it'd be this way. Think I can be introduced later?" she whispered. "Probably, if he's here. I'll bet that Aunt Hera is back at my place with Mom waiting to see our headbands and hear who our teammate is," he said quietly. Sinon, seeing the two lovebirds whispering and saw him motion to the window, she took a look and saw an abnormal eagle perched there. What shocked her was that looked straight back at her and winked. What in the hell? She then hears Naruto chuckling and muttering something about sly old men. Lord Zeus. "Alright everyone, pay attention," the headmaster said, getting everyone's attention. Rookie of the Year is Naruto Uzumaki, and Kunoichi of the Year is tied between Sinon and Levi Magarden. Congratulations to the three of you. Sinon quietly groans. "I guess now I know why Lord Zeus winked at me. Rookie of the Year is always paired with the Kunoichi of the Year. Since I tied with Magarden, making the three of us are a team." It seemed like Naruto and Levi caught on to that as well, if their grins were anything to say about it. However, the headmaster continued after raising his hand to quiet the students down again. We only one other team that has passed. This is highly unacceptable. Study hard, train even harder. We will have another exam in 1 month. Samui, Karui, Omoi, congratulations on graduation. Atsui, you will be placed in the reserves until we have enough for a team." "Man. That's not hot at all," Atsui complained. "Too bad. Blame your fellow students," the Chunin said again, causing Tai and Tita to look embarrassed. They know they didn't graduate because they were knocked out for the rest of the exams. "Now then, Naruto, Levi, Sinon, your Jonin sensei shall be Yoruichi Shihoin. Sinon, Ms. Shihoin left instructions for you to follow Naruto and Levi to his place. Naruto will need to let you in due to the barrier around their compound. The Raikage before turning to the only other team. Omoi, Karui, Samui, your sensei. As Killer B, he'll be here in an hour to pick you up." "So uncool." Samui deadpanned, earning a nod from Karui while Omoi seemed excited. "Why, Lord did you give us your brother? His rapping is horrid," the redhead shouted. Naruto chuckled as he stood up before motioning for his team to follow, taking notice that his father had flown off, likely to meet them back at home. Sinon sighed but nodded, grabbing her bow and quiver before noticing that Levi grabbed her friend's weapon before running up to him and elbowing him, handing the admittedly beautiful blade, even if she preferred her bow. After all, from what she could tell, Levi was going to have the support role. Naruto was clearly the muscle, especially with his lightning abilities and that godly strength. Once out front of the academy, she saw a purple-haired, green-clad warrior with a rather plain-looking glaive on her back. Next to her was a dark-haired woman in a black kimono, but she caught glimpse of something on her wrist undersleeves. Seeing the two, Naruto ran up to them and tackled them into a hug. "Shizune, Jade-sensei. I wasn't expecting you two to meet us. But where's Mom? I was kinda hoping she'd be here," he said, disappointment clear in his voice. "Lady Kushina wishes she could be here, but there is an important company waiting back to the estate for you and your team," Shizune said with a smile before looking at the blue-haired bow user. "Nice to meet you, I'm Shizune Kato, and Naruto's big sister figure." "Nice to meet you. I'm Sinon." Sinon bowed politely while thinking to herself, "I wonder if I'll get to meet Lady Tsunade today? I know she lives with Naruto." Jade looked at the fresh genin. "We must be off. Lady Yoruichi, as well as the important company, is expecting you three." Alright. Let's go." Naruto sighed and everyone used the body flicker jutsu to get to their destination. Uzumaki residence. Outside of the mansion, Kushina was waiting for her son and team to arrive so she could key his second teammate into the barrier so they could come and go as they pleased. She wasn't told who it was, but she could guess as that it was the anti-social girl Sinon. "Well, looks like I was right. At least I don't have to worry about her fawning over my son like those fangirls," she thought as they appeared via body flicker. "Hello Sinon, It's nice to officially meet you. I've heard a bit about you from my son and Levi. I'm Kushina Uzumaki. It's an honor to meet the legendary Red Death, ma'am. Sinon said, slightly intimidated. Oh, calm down, dear. I'm not going to hurt you as long as you don't intend on hurting my son. The Uzumaki matriarch said with a too sweet smile. Now, I'm going to need a little of your blood to key you into the seal so you can come and go as you please for team meetings. This is the safest place in the village, after all, so you won't have to worry about anyone spying on your training sessions. Sinon nodded, taking out a kunai, taking off her glove, and cutting her palm, then held out her hand for her teammate's mother to do her work. Kushina got to work quickly while Shizune healed the girl's hand, making it like the injury never happened. Alright, come on in, everyone is waiting in the living room. You mean father and auntie are here? Naruto asked eagerly. He hadn't seen his father and aunt in the last 5 years. Seeing his mother nod, he shot off into the house, leaving everyone behind. Come on. Yoruichi is waiting. Jade said, walking inside, getting Levi and Shizune to sigh, but followed after the green-clad warrior with Sinon not far behind. Once they caught up, they saw Naruto hugging and being hugged by the king and queen of Olympus. My, how you've grown, Naruto. I hope you've been behaving yourself, Hera said softly. Yeah. I've been good. I've trained hard and Levi's been keeping the fangirls away. Jade's been a big help in making sure I can yield Heaven's Talon properly. Though I do feel bad for beating that kid so quickly early today, he said with a big smile on his face. Yes, I watched that. I'm quite proud of you, my boy. Zeus said with a big grin, earning glares from the numerous women in the room. What I mean is that at that moment, that boy was an enemy. Taking him down quickly is the optimal outcome. Would you rather he toys with his opponent? You have a point. Hera sighed. You said Levi did the same, didn't you? She's been trained well here. Levi merely laughs nervously. I do feel sorry for Tita, but Lord Zeus is right. I took my opponent out as quickly as possible. Doesn't make me feel any better. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, by the way, Lord Zeus, Lady Hera. It's a pleasure to officially meet you as well, dear, even though we've kept an eye on Naruto his entire life. So thank you for being there for him as his friend, especially keeping those fangirls off him. Hera said with a kind smile, with Zeus nodding. Geez, who would have thought that the king and queen of the gods were like this? Sinon thought ruefully. However, it was then that a new voice sounds through the living room. Attached to this was a third purple-haired woman with a golden tan, brown eyes, her hair styled into a very look ponytail, almost looking like a pineapple. She was wearing a denim jacket that had full-length sleeves but was only rib-length around the body area, left open to see her red bikini top, denim short shorts left open at the crouch showing off her red bikini bottoms even if the strings were already visible, and sandals that were clasped around her mid-thigh. Ah, so Sparky and his little girlfriend managed to graduate. Well, congratulations. I see you got the sniper girl as a teammate as well. That's a balanced team if I ever saw one, she said. Anko. What did I tell you about walking around dressed like that? Kushina growled. What? Seduction is part of being a kunoichi. I mean, while not as revealing, Levi is wearing something similar. The now named Anko said with a shrug, earning a blush from the dark blue-haired girl to blush and groan from the Uzumaki matriarch. Kushina's mission 5 years ago was to find and rescue Anko from the clutches of Orochimaru after he fled Konoha, taking the young girl, who was his apprentice, with him, not telling her that was run out of the village for his inhumane experiments. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to find the poor girl before the snake Sanin put his curse mark of heaven on his apprentice's neck, causing her extreme pain and even amnesia of her time in the land of water. However, 3 years ago Kushina was able to completely remove the negative effects of the mark, Orochimaru's soul fragment, and keep the benefits of added chakra source, amplified strength, even the transformation that come with the seal. She even applied it to her family who were Jonin level. Ever since Kushina saved her, she decided to live with her family and become a kunoichi of Kumo. Anyway, Naruto said, coughing, trying to change the subject. Where is Yoruichi-sensei? We were told she'd be waiting for us here, but I don't see her around. She's in the backyard. She knew that you would want to talk with your father and aunt before meeting her, so she's likely taking a nap, his mother said before looking at the bow user. Don't be shocked if you see a cat in the backyard. Okay. Sinon said, clearly confused. Why is Lady Uzumaki warning me about a cat? Outside, True to Kushina's word, there was a black cat curled up in a ball under the shade of one of the trees. Naruto and Levi sighed while Sinon looked at them curiously. Hearing the sighs of the two childhoods, the cat perked and walked up to them and sit in front of the genin. Ah, you've arrived. Did you talk enough with your father and Lady Hera, Naruto? A masculine voice spoke, shocking Sinon, who was looking around frantically. Who's there? The poor bow user shouted in fear. Down here, young lady. The cat said with a smirk. Yoruichi. I think you freaked our teammate out enough. Levi said with a sigh, causing the freaked out ice blue-haired girl to snap her frantic gaze to the Fuinjutsu specialist. However, before she would say anything, Yoruichi dispelled her transformation with a pout on her face. Ah, Levi. You spoiled all my fun. What the hell is going on? Poor Sinon shouted, looking she was on the verge of a breakdown. Sinon, calm down. Yoruichi-sensei is an infiltration specialist thanks to her special transformation you just saw. Naruto said, putting a hand on her shoulder. Not to mention she's a prankster as well, Levi sighed. You wound me, you failed to mention my specialty in seduction as well. The Jonin said in almost a purr, making Naruto and Levi blush. Sinon just sighed and shrugged her shoulders. You mean to tell me that our Jonin is an immature adult that enjoys pranking people? Great. Just when I thought this team was already a mess. How so? Yoruichi asked curiously. We have a demigod with insane strength, that special weapon and non-chakra related lightning abilities, a petite powerhouse with a Fuinjutsu-based Kekkei Genkai, and now a female Jonin that can transform into a male cat that can talk. If I include myself, a long-range specialist with little physical abilities. I only use the opponent's weight and momentum against them, the sniper said. I'd say it a perfectly balanced. If this was a role-playing game, I'd be the tank, powerhouse, Levi is support, you're the long range, and Yoruichi is not only our leader but our stealth expert. The demigod explained. He's right. And this team needs to be balanced. The purple-haired Jonin said. It's highly likely we'll be sent on diplomatic missions due to the high-profile nature of who is on our team. Naruto sighs. So because I'm Zeus' son, we'll be sent to other villages as emissaries of the gods, and just the villages. So. Are we officially genin, or are you going to test us or something? Sinon said, clearly done with everything. Nah. No test. Judging how you've been interacting with everyone, not just us, is more than enough proof you'll fit right in with this team. I don't need to worry about Naruto and Levi working together, they've been training together since before the academy started, and been friends since he saved her from bullies. Yoruichi said simply. I have to agree. You might have been anti-social in the academy, but aren't so bad. Naruto said with a big foxy grin, causing the sniper to look away, trying to hide a blush of embarrassment. Shut up. Idiot. She said, trying to keep her cool while everyone there was chuckling slightly. Alright, I think that's enough teasing the new girl. Let's get back inside and celebrate with everyone. We start training and missions tomorrow. The purple-haired Jonin said, easing out of her laughter, getting a nod of agreement from Sinon and cheers of excitement from the childhood friends. 2 weeks later, Naruto and his team were standing in front of the wreckage after being called for a mission, one which the mountain of a man was hesitant to issue, especially since where the mission was to take them. Standing with him was Naruto's mother, waiting to hear this mission. During the 2 weeks, they caught Sinon on her chakra control training, sufferance climbing, and water walking, as well as help her with her taijutsu, in case she was ever unarmed. Not to say Naruto and Levi didn't train themselves, they continued to work on their Fuinjutsu capabilities, all while doing the dreaded D-ranked missions. Team Uzumaki, in a month and a half, Konoha is hosting what is called the Chunin exams. They have extended us an invitation to the exams. Normally, I would send a team with more experience, but all of our teams are out on missions. And B's team isn't anywhere near skilled enough to make the journey. I said cautiously, only to be interrupted by Kushina. You're telling me? She started, her voice low, her hair whipping around as if they were 9 tails. You're sending my baby boy to the one place that got my family sent here in the first place? Lady Kushina, I understand your frustration. However, I assure you, Minato wouldn't dare do anything to him or this team or risk revoking our wire-thin treaty. Rest assured, they will be safe. Besides, this team is genin in name only. I have little doubt they will come back safe. And come time for the exams, they will dominate and be named Chunin, even should Konoha stack the odds. the Raikage said with confidence, calming the irate mother. So, this mission is a courier one. Yoruichi said with a sigh, getting a nod from the village ruler. So, we are to travel to Konoha, deliver our acceptance letter, and return home? That is correct. Should anything change, we will send word via summon animal, I said sternly. No disrespect, Lord Raikage, but this team is bound to raise Konoha's ire. Yoruichi-sensei was once a part of Konoha's Anbu forces before she sided with my mother during her pregnancy with me. This will be dangerous for us the moment we step within their walls, especially since those heathens think of themselves above my father, auntie, brothers, and sisters, as well as my uncles. What is to stop them from trying to apprehend myself and my team if they don't even respect the gods? Naruto said boldly. The Raikage merely chuckled. Should that happen, I have a feeling that nothing and no one will stop your mother's wrath and fury. Hell, I suspect that Lord Zeus and all of Olympus may join her in her assault. Not that I think that this scenario would play out. No, you're more likely to level the village yourself should they try anything. Therefore, if they do, you have my permission to give them a small demonstration of your overwhelming power. This earned sighs from the ladies in the room while they share the exact same thought. I swear these two get along the way too well at times. In fact, if it wasn't his goal to join his father on Olympus one day, I'd say Naruto would be a shoe-in for the next Raikage when I steps down. Hey, Mom? Is there any way to contact Father or Uncle Poseidon quickly so we can see about borrowing one of his fastest ships? The demigod asked with a grin on his face with an underlying tone of hopefulness. Yes, I can contact Lord Zeus and have him summon your uncle. I'm sure that Lord Poseidon would be more than happy to help his nephew, she said with a smile that promised pain if the Lord of the Sea didn't agree. Alright, everyone go get ready, we leave in 1 hour, Yoruichi said, getting nods of acknowledgement from her genin. Mount Olympus. I understand, I'll get in contact with my brother and get him to meet Naruto and his team at the port with his best ship. I wish I could offer more, but everyone has their duties to attend to, Zeus said, talking to Kushina via a communication mirror. Thank you. That will be a big help. I can't help but feel something horrible is going to happen on this mission, Kushina said, biting her thumbnail, showing her worry. Kushina. I know you're worried, but are you sure it's not just because it's his first time out of the village? He said with a teasing grin. Forgive me for worrying about our son, she snapped at the god. You need to relax. He's more than strong enough to deal with any problems. Bandits and any of those rogue ninja will underestimate him because he's a fresh genin and he'll fry them with his abilities. Not to mention he has his team to back him up and he can summon one of my eagles if ever really needs help. You trust your retainer Yoruichi, don't you? The king of the gods said calmly. Alright. Fine. Don't contact me for a mission until Naruto is back home, she said as she cut the transmission. That woman is such a pain in the ass sometimes. Zeus sighed and leaned back in his throne. You heard that right, brother? Get to the land of Lightning's port city with your finest boat fit for 4 people. Oh, and try to blend in. Very well. I have just the vessel, one that will be a gift to my nephew, one that is far more advanced than those sailboats the rest of the mortals are using, one that only Naruto can power. I can even provide a captain for it, the god of sea said with a grin. Please tell it's not that foul-mouthed fool who dreams of flying, Naruto's father groaned. No. Don't you need to worry, I won't introduce Naruto to that quack. Trust me. The sea green-haired god smirked. Port City 2 days later, Yoruichi and Genin arrived in town and made their way to the shipyard even if Levi and Sinon were exhausted from the trip. They didn't stop longer than to eat 3 times a day. How far to the port? I need some sleep. I'm not used to traveling this long without sleep. The Fuinjutsu using girl whined. I'm with Levi. We need some sleep, Sinon said tiredly. Come on girls. Once we meet Uncle Poseidon and get the ship we can sleep on the sea, Naruto said with a smile. He's right girls. We can rest soon, Yoruichi said, simply causing the 2 girls to groan. After 30 minutes of walking they arrived at their destination and wasn't hard to find their quarry. There, next to a vessel unlike any other, was a man with sea green hair and sea blue eyes wearing a tropical top and baggy shorts and civilian sandals, grinning at them with a big smile. Next to them was a pink-haired girl tied in a loose ponytail, emerald eyes, wearing a hot pink jacket with sleeves rolled up to her elbows, black leather gloves, yellow shirt, black tie, white skirt, black thigh-high stockings, brown combat boots. She appeared to have a fairly athletic build to her. Ah, nephew. I've been waiting. I'd like you to meet someone. Poseidon said with a smile while gesturing to the girl next to him. This is Juna Crawford. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lord Naruto. Lord Poseidon has asked me to be the captain of this vessel, Juna said with a bow. This vessel is far more advanced than every other vessel in this world. It is powered by your lightning abilities, so no one else can use it. You can even seal it away if you're worried about it being sunk by jealous mortals. The god of the sea explained. She's fast too, it should cut your travel time by a lot. Thanks, uncle, Naruto said running up and hugging Poseidon. This is very cool Naruto. Look at this thing. Levi said admiring the ship. It was no sails, and what looked like twin demon wind shuriken only much smaller, painted red, silver with gold trim with no name on the back. Huh? No name? I figured since it's my gift to my nephew, he should have the right to name it. The sea blue-eyed god said with a shrug. How does she handle storms? She's not gonna capsize on us, is she? Sinon asked slightly worried. Oh, you wound me, my dear. You think I'd give my nephew anything less than the best? Poseidon grasps his chest in mock hurt. Right. Sorry, she said slightly taken aback by the sea god's attitude. But to answer, as long as it's not hurricane weather, you'll be just fine. He said seriously getting a nod from the bow user in thanks before he looked around. Alright, I better be off. Your father gets irritated when we spend too much time out of our realms. Take care of them Juna. Of course Lord Poseidon. The Pinkette said with a bow as the god nodded and vanished into the sea before she sighed. Do you guys mind if I drop the formality shtick? Being formal for too long bothers me. I don't care. I'm not all that worried about formalities or titles involving me. Naruto shrugged getting a nod of thanks in return. So, Naruto, what are you naming this beautiful ship? Yoruichi asked her student. The redhead took a thinking pose and after a minute he answered. How about the Ragnarok? It's your gift. Sinon said plainly with a shrug. I like it. Levi said with a smile. Sounds pretty kick-ass, a name for a ship I'm honored to be at the helm of. Juna said in agreement. Alright, we'll get the name painted on the back when we get back. Let's get going. We'll make port in the land of waves and make our way to Konoha from there. The Jonin said getting nods from her team and Naruto's new companion. Once on board the two blue-haired girls went directly to the cabin to get some shut-eye while Naruto sat next to Juna and acted as the Ragnarok's battery while Yoruichi took the role of the lookout. The helmsman captain figured it would take them a week to reach wave with good weather and providing Naruto stored enough of his power to last while he took a break on occasion. So Juna? Mind if I ask you something? Naruto asked out of nowhere. Huh? Oh, go ahead, she said not taking her eyes off the horizon. Well. He paused scratching his cheek. Not to say I was checking you out or anything, but I noticed you're pretty fit. Are you a kunoichi perhaps? Not at all, I'm a civilian through and through. I just like to stay active. Before your uncle asked me to help you, I was part of another crew and unlike this beauty here, you need to be fit to handle the rigging and whatnot. Being a sailor isn't easy, she said with a smile before continuing. Not to say I don't have some training. A girl's gotta know how to defend herself after all. I took some self-defense taijutsu training while I was on land from all over the world. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Sorry if I weirded you out, he said with chuckled. I don't mind. I'm in your employ now, so I guess it's only natural that you'd want to know about me. I, of course, already know a fair bit about you from your uncle and tales I've heard from Kumo around town. You're pretty strong yourself, taking down a student your age within a few seconds with a flurry of punches, knocking him out and leaving him unable to finish his exam. The same could be said for that messy blue-haired girl. She's pretty tough too. The Pinkette said with a smirk. I didn't mean to knock him out that bad. It's because of me and Levi we only had 2 graduating teams, he said sheepishly. What's the story between you two anyhow? Anyone around the two of you for more than 5 minutes can see you're close, Juna asked curiously. Naruto sighed as he ran his fingers through his spiky hair. She's my best friend. We've known each other since childhood. We've been pretty much joined at the hip since I saved her from some bullies who liked to pick on her due to her wild, dark blue hair. After I ended leaving the guy pretty much an invalid, no one else dared to pick on her again. How sweet. Sounds like you're a real hero already, she teased, giving him a cheeky wink. Yeah, I guess, he said before falling into silence.
Land of Waves 5 days later. They had made a great time since the sea was perfectly calm and Naruto's overwhelming lightning abilities were a big help too, but as they were pulling into port, they noticed something off. The town looked rundown, grungy. The people looked like they were starving, afraid, some even looking like they were sick. However, what really bothered them was a gaudy mansion that looked to be in good repair and bandit-looking men with katanas looking full and healthy.
Juna, do you have a weapon? Naruto said lowly, his fist clenched, the skies darkening, the sound of rumbling thunder echoing the skies. Yeah, I have a pair of tonfa, she replied seriously, knowing the demigod was pissed. Naruto, I know you're upset, so let's look around town to learn the situation, Yoruichi said. In the meantime, I'd suggest sealing our vessel into a scroll. Levi nodded and took care of the suggestion and put the scroll into her pouch while worried about her childhood friend. Sinon looked to be ready to grab her bow at a moment's notice. As they walked through town, Naruto was finding it really hard not to fry the bandits. Even kids were starving, their ribs showing, and while they didn't see it, they could hear some poor unfortunate woman being attacked. They didn't go to the rescue because they knew that helping would only cause the people more problems until they were employed to run out the bandits or source of the bandits. Excuse me. You're shinobi, right? A middle-aged woman with black hair and clean clothes approached them cautiously. That's right, we're shinobi from Kumo. Yoruichi spoke for her team, taking in her appearance. Is there something you need? Yes, my father is on his way to Konoha to hire their shinobi and took all the money our town could scrounge together. The civilian said hesitantly. Oh, my apologies, my name is Tsunade, and my father is Tsunade, a bridge builder, and is trying to build one to connect our town to the mainland. You see, a business tycoon by the name of Gado has taken complete control over our shipping routes and doesn't let us go out to fish without charging us an outrageous amount in docking fees. I see. So since your father is threatening this Gado's monopoly on the town with his bridge, you think he's employing rogue shinobi to kill your father, which is why Tsunade has left to Konoha to hire protection. Most likely going to lie about the difficulty of the mission, saying it's only lowly bandits after him. The Jonin said thoughtfully, getting a nod from Tsunade. Right. That's all we could scrounge up. Enough for a C-rank mission, the black-haired woman said. Naruto growled, the storm overhead getting worse. Yoruichi-sensei, we're on our way there anyhow. Let's catch up to the bridge builder and get him to Konoha. But I want to send a request to the Raikage to join the mission to free this country. Even if we don't get approval, I'm going to come back, kill Gado and every bandit here myself. Yoruichi and the girls sighed. Very well, Naruto. We'll send the request with the complete details. Your summons are faster than mine, so you do it. I'll stay here to protect Tsunade. Guys like Gado wouldn't hesitate to try to capture his target's family to use as hostages, Juna said seriously. Yoruichi nodded and noticed that Naruto had already written down everything and sent off one of his father's eagles to the Raikage. Alright, let's hurry and catch up to Tsunade. Tsunade, what does he look like? Tsunade gave them a basic description, then they ran off to find the old man as fast as they could before Naruto lost control and started destroying every bandit in the area. Let's get you home, ma'am. I may not be kunoichi myself, but I can fight off bandits at the very least, Juna said, watching her new friends vanish out of sight. Be careful, you guys. Road to Konoha. It didn't take long to find Tsunade and fill him in on the situation. So, you're on your way to Konoha to deliver something when you saw what was going on back home and wish to help, even if your Raikage doesn't approve the mission request. The old drunk summarized. That's right. Naruto said seriously. Well, alright, but please keep quiet about us not having enough to cover anything higher than a C rank, Tsunade begged. Naruto growls since he hated liars but didn't say anything when Yoruichi glared at him. Very well, but we won't be held responsible for when they do find out. Let's go. Who are you anyhow? I didn't think that a team of genin would be sent this far from their country, the old man asked. The Jonin sighed. Let's just say that we're a special team and leave it at that. I'm sure you find out all about it when we reach Konoha. Hey. Levi whispered, putting her hand on her friend's back. Are you okay? I will be once we free Wave and send Gado to my uncle Hades. He whispered back since he heard the untold order to keep his mouth shut about his demigod status. Konoha. Hokage Tower. 2 days later. The trip to Konoha was uneventful thankfully, even the trip through the village was peaceful. However, in Minado's office, tension was so thick you could cut it with a kunai. Naruto was glaring at the lecherous Hokage while he was blatantly looking at the Kumo kunoichi with very clear lust in his eyes. Lord Hokage, here is our acceptance letter with a complete list of which teams that will be participating. Yoruichi said professionally. Yes, very good. Though I am disappointed you joined another village's forces after you resigned here, Yoruichi. Perhaps you'd consider re-enlisting here. Minato said, licking his lips. I'm sorry, but allegiance is to the Uzumaki clan first and foremost. I joined Kumo's forces to help protect Lady Kushina and her son. She replied, keeping her professional tone, even if she wanted to assassinate the man in front of her. Minato growled at the mention of his ex-wife which hurt his reputation so much. Very well then. Letter accepted. You're dismissed. Now then, Tsunade was it? You wish to hire a team of shinobi to protect you from bandits while you build your bridge in order to connect the land of waves to the land of fire, is this correct? He said, turning his attention to the bridge builder. Yes, that's correct. It shouldn't take me more than a month to finish since I am half down already. Tsunade nodded. Very well. Anbu, get me Team 7. The Hokage said professionally before looking at the red-haired genin in the room. And what's your problem? You've been glaring at me the entire time you've been here. Naruto smirked darkly, letting a very small bit of his power loose, showing the electricity in his eyes, lightning sparking on his gauntlets, and a lightning storm to form in the skies outside, causing Minato to growl and having to restrain himself from attacking the demigod and risk starting a war with Kumo. The Raikage has some nerve sending you here, son of Zeus. Your whore of a mother almost cost my position in the village. The yellow flash growled, causing Tsunade to gasp. The demigod smirked and released his power, causing the storm to dissipate. I'm not here as my father's son, Lord Hokage. I'm here as a genin of Kumo. Attack me as I can tell you want to, and my father will erase this village before you can even reach me. However, before Minato could retort, there was a knock at the door before Team 7 walked in with a frantic Kakashi being the first to enter while looking for the King of the Gods. When didn't see Zeus, he spotted a red head who possessed incredible power. I see. The baby that almost started a civil war here has returned as a Kumo genin. This is a political nightmare. Behind him was the genin of Team 7, a moody boy with black hair that looked like a duck's butt, charcoal eyes, wearing a blue high-collared t-shirt with the Uchiha fan on his back, white shorts, and blue shinobi sandals. Beside him was a pink, red salmon, spiky-haired boy with a very lean yet toned build, charcoal eyes, a white scaly scarf, a black vest with gold trim, white baggy pants, and black shinobi pants. And lastly, a pink-haired girl, with emerald eyes, slender but toned build, wearing a red kipao top, black biker shorts under a red skirt, and blue shinobi pants. When Naruto and the Pinkette's eyes locked, they both blushed and smiled shyly at him, causing the Uchiha to scowl shout. Hey, what are Kumo trash doing here? Oh boy. Kakashi thought while Yoruichi spoke up. Well boy, we're here delivering a letter from the Raikage as our first C-ranked mission. Sasuke. Calm down. You've been summoned for the same reason, your first C-ranked mission. Minato said with authority, making the Uchiha smirk. Before they could continue, a puff of smoke appeared in the room, causing the Konoha shinobi to draw kunai ready to attack, only to see an eagle with a scroll on its back. Naruto knelt down, taking the scroll from the bird, and gave it an appreciative pat on the head before reading it. Once he was finished, he had a devilish smirk on his face and handed the scroll to Yoruichi. Lord Hokage, it seems like my team also has a mission in Wave, so what do you say to a joint mission? Both teams will guard Tsunade on the way to Wave, then my team will carry out our objective. The Kumo Jonin said with a smirk after reading the scroll. And what objective would that be? Minato asked curiously. We don't need help from these weaklings, in fact. Sasuke started before pointing at Naruto. You. Give that weapon. A nobody like shouldn't have a weapon of that caliber. The Kumo genin chuckled while Yoruichi sighed as Naruto nodded. Sure, if you can actually hold her. However, the second Sasuke touched Heaven's talon, his entire arm was shocked into numbness, causing everyone but Kakashi and Minato to laugh loudly. What is the meaning of this? Minato shouted. You have some knowledge of Fuinjutsu. Take a look. The demigod said with a grin. I see blood seals that are set to shock anyone, but its owner can wield it. Minato growled before addressing the demigod. I assume that Kushina is the one to make this seal. Judging for the craftsmanship. Naruto merely grinned and nodded, causing the Hokage to sigh. Damn it. I can't even begin to alter this seal. There is an anti-tampering seal on here that is far too advanced for me to overwrite. Nevertheless, since we are allies, I will approve this joint mission. However, I do request to know what your objective is in your part of the mission, he said, trying to get more information. I'm sorry, Lord Hokage, but that is confidential. Just know it will not affect your team in the slightest. Yoruichi said professionally while internally smirking, knowing that another village's mission above B rank was not to be shared with another village. Well, I suppose we should introduce ourselves since we'll be working together for the next month. Kakashi said, trying to keep a fight from breaking out. I'm Kakashi Hatake. Sasuke Uchiha of the elite Uchiha clan. Sasuke said proudly, causing his team to sigh and the Kumo shinobi to scoff. I'm Sakura Haruno. And regrettably stepdaughter the Hokage. Sakura said with disgust. She hated that her mother left her father for the lecherous Hokage after cheating on him for years, leaving him with nothing. I'm Natsu Dragneel. Natsu said with a big smile. Naruto chuckled at the cheerful salmon-haired boy but frowned since the pink-haired beautiful girl seemed to hate her life, not that he could blame her. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Zeus, king of the gods, he said proudly, earning a gasp from Natsu and Sakura and scowls from Sasuke and Minato while Kakashi sighed. I'm Levi Magarden, a childhood friend of Naruto. Levi said with a small blush but a big smile, causing Sakura to scowl for reasons the pinkette didn't know. I'm Sinon. The pale blue-haired genin said deadpan. And I'm Yoruichi Shihuin. It's been a while, Kakashi. The purple-haired Jonin said with a smirk. Oh boy. She's the same as always. Always willing to cause trouble for the hell of it. The white-haired Jonin thought before replying with a nod before addressing Shinobi in the room. Meet at the front gates in an hour, Team 7, be ready for a month-long mission. Lord Hokage, is Higarashi's still open? Yoruichi asked, getting a reluctant nod from the lecherous man. Alright then, Naruto, Levi, Sinon, follow me and we can get outfitted for our mission. Kakashi sighed for what seemed like the 100th time that day. This is going to be a long month. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.